topic is a topic that we cannot even exhaust in a week if we really want to study what DNA is all about. But I will try as much as possible in this 30 minutes that I have to introduce us to some of the things that has to do with domain name system. So you're welcome once again. So for today, we are going to look at what is domain name itself. We're going to look at the structure, the brief history of DNS. We're also going to talk about how does the domain name system work, the ecosystem itself. That is why we're here. And we're going to look at narrow engagement with the registrar and the reseller. So what is domain name system that we are talking about? Like Olumide said, he said it's a multi-million dollar industry. What is it all about? So DNS is something that has given us the opportunity to overcome the problem of remembering IP addresses. You know, it can be referred to as internet address book. Just like you have a phone, you know, you store a lot of numbers on your phone. On top of those numbers, you have people's name. So over time, it has been observed that people are not doing well with numbers, but we can do well with names. That is why they developed the idea of DNS. Also, DNS is a distributed database. What it means is that DNS does not reside in a particular location. They are a replica of the server that back up the DNS all over the places. Even though we have 13 root servers, we are a replica of that all over the world. Another advantage that DNS has given us is that, you know, if you go back history, what happened before the DNS, there are a lot of challenges in terms of name collision. When someone is thinking about a name, another person is thinking about the same name. So that DNS has eradicated that. Domain name are used for naming websites, and also that is what we use for our email addresses. That's why we say that if you use Gmail, what you are using is public domain. As a company, it's always good for you to have your own custom email address. Those are the opportunities that DNS has given to us all. As we move, we look at why do we need name when the communication between devices on the internet only made possible by IP addresses. You know, if a device, one device to another, for them to communicate, the only thing they need is IP address. They don't understand the word, your name, they don't understand it. So why do we have to do that? One of the reasons why is, these are the reasons, some of the reasons why they developed the DNS. It's easier for people, like I mentioned earlier, to remember name other than to continue to remember numbers. Another beautiful advantage that DNS has given us is that at times you might move your files from where it is hosted, and in that wise, your IP address might likely to change. But with DNS, even if your IP address change, your name still remains, even if you move your data or files from one server to another. So DNS has given us the advantage of still retaining our name, and also give you opportunity to use your name in terms of you want to have a website, you can use your name. And rather than typing numbers to your browser, you can easily use your name to type, to get to your website. So the structure, before I go into the structure, there's something I wanted to say that keep in mind. I want to say that this program is DNS Domain Name Reseller Entrepreneurship Program. So talking about Domain Name Entrepreneurship Program, this is a technical part of it. There are other people that are going to talk about the marketing part of it, but I just want to say that anybody can become a reseller, most especially lawyers. That is why this technical part that I'm going to talk about now, I'm not going to go deep technical wise in this my slide, because as a reseller, you don't really need that deep technical knowledge to run the business. As a lawyer, maybe you're just registering a name for someone, a CAC name registration for someone. You can advise them if you're a reseller, to also register their name as a domain name so that someone else might not take it. So it's not like it should be a technical stuff. So everything I'm going to talk here now, we don't have that full technical flair. Let us just flow with me. If you have any question, you can always ask. So we are looking at the structure. This is how it's structured. As a reseller, all you just need to know is to know where the TLD stand, what is the TLD, and what are the root servers. You don't need to know how they set it up. You don't need to know how to set up the registry. Just know that this is how it is structured. It starts from the root level, that is root domain. And that root level is managed by ICANN. Every top level are connected to that root domain, which is signified by dots. Like we have every domain name, there's a dot, hidden dot behind it. And this is the dot, that is the root level. You will not always see those dots, but they are there. If you put a domain name on a browser and add that dot, it will surely take you to that website. You will not see any error. But then it is silent because they know that people might forget it. That's why they don't make it like, if you don't have it, there will be error. So this is structure. From the root, go to the TLD. From the TLD, go to your own name. Your own name. For .ng, what we have done is that from the root, you get to .ng, which is root is managed by ICANN. .ng is managed by Neura, the organization that organizes events down. So under Neura, we now have some second level domain that we have created for administrative purpose. You know, we started late compared to .com, and for business purpose, we felt that a lot of people might say they want a name that have .com in it, even though they want to use .ng. So that is why .ng created those .com.ng, .net.ng, .org.ng, and so on and so forth. So on that, you can register your own name. But now, over the years, .ng, a lot of people say they want to have their name straight because the knowledge has now widened, because a lot of people now understand what domain name is all about, that you don't necessarily need to have .com in your name before you can get to your website. So that's why we now open up second level. So you can now register your name, like whatever name you have, .ng. So just talking about the structure. Let's move on. Now, brief history of, looking at the brief history of DNS. We can easily read this up on the internet. You know, I will just quickly tell us how it started. It started, you know, the internet started in US, where they were just trying to communicate with themselves from one part of the country to another, and they develop a network where they can easily communicate together. So after that time, they now felt that we need a web page where people can also put their information on the website. Now they now started with, you know, I said communication between devices happen with IP addresses. Now, after that time, they discovered that it's becoming difficult because the numbers start increasing. Just imagine when MTN and all these mobile telecommunication company came up, I used to remember that I can memorize some names, then after some time, I lost it. So the same thing happened. They now started using a file that is referred to as host.txt. That is what you see in what you can see on the screen. We say that those are the dark days, dark age of the internet, where we use host.txt. It still exists today, but we have gone beyond that. So after that, in 1973, request for comment was developed, where they started discussing how they can move ahead with the DNS, because from the host.txt, they discovered a lot of issues that I've mentioned earlier, name collision. They discovered that there's issue of scalability, because you have to, every week they send out email of those names that they have agreed, people have sent to them. You need to put it on your own system so that you're able to browse, and it's becoming like it's not that easy to manage. So discussion continue along that line to 1983, where Paul and other scientists came up with the DNS itself, and they developed requests for comment 882 and 883. We can always read this up. You can check RFC 882 883. Now they now move to RFC 1034 and 1035, 1987. That was when they now agree that this is DNS. They saw that this is beautiful. And from then they keep, advancing on it to what we have today. This is just brief history of what happened in the DNS industry. So let's go to the real business. How does the domain name work? This is just to explain how it works. You just put your domain name on your browser and voila, what you see is a website. So what has happened within that short period of time? Number one, when you put it in the browser, the DNS, your name transfers. The first time that you put a domain name to your browser, the first thing it does is that you go to the root server. There are 13 of them. You get to any one of them. Like I said earlier, it is managed by ICANN. And because ICANN has given NERA the opportunity to run .ng, there's an information about .ng on those root server where that domain name will go, that request will go to. And the answer that will be given there is that, yes, I know .ng, but the particular name you are looking for, I don't really have that name, but I know .ng. So you will redirect you to .ng. That is when you go to the number 3, the root server will refer the DNS server to .ng name server. So from .ng name server, that will now say that I know this domain name, I know the authoritative server for that domain name. That's where it now take you to where your website has been posted. As we proceed, you see more of it. So every time a DNS query is made, what you are actually doing is that you are making DNS query. That's what you are actually making to the first time you go to a root server. However, there is no need to contact the root server every time. What happens is that most of the ISP, for easy management of resource and to make life easy or faster for whoever that want to browse, they have what we call caching name server on their system. What it does is that at the first time, that caching will not have that information. That is when it will go to root server. But after that time, if that information is still held in that caching server, you don't need to travel to wherever the root server is. It will answer you. That's what it's simply explaining here. This is like a picture of how the DNS run. If you look at it from your device, there's a resolver on your device that will say, oh, this is what they are looking for. The first time you want to get a website on your own PC and on that ISP that you're using, that particular name has not been cached. You will notice that each time you want to go to Google, because Google is a popular website, it doesn't take much time for it to open. It means that there's a caching server somewhere that has held that information you are looking for. But if you know there are some websites that are not popular, you discover that when you try to open those websites, it takes more time compared to when you are trying to open Google. These are things that happen behind the scene. So the bottom line of what we are talking about is domain name. When we talk about DNS, the end results, the major thing there is domain name. And that is what we are looking at here now. DNS gave back to what are now known as domain name. Let's look at typical domain name. I put nera.org.ng. Both domain name that you can see on your screen are the same. They are going to give you the same result based on configuration. Some people, if you see www.nera.org.ng or their name whatever TLD, it might take you elsewhere. But when you have HTTPS/ your name, take you to actual website. What it means is that www is a subdomain. Some people make it like a subdomain, or some people just use it as CNAME for your domain name. I hope I'm not being technical about it. This is just your domain name. You can see that one is underlined, the other one is not underlined. The only difference why this one is underlined is because there's a link behind this, and this other one, there's no link behind it. That is why you look at it's underlined. There's nothing different. So the first level, that is the top level, that .ng. Remember, I said there's a dot even behind .ng, but I didn't put it there because I said it's always hidden. And the next one is org, which is second level. And the next one is the name, which is referred to as third level. And of course, the last one, www, that I said is a subdomain. Continue with domain name. Each top level domain is managed by a specific organization. Like NERA, we are the registry for .ng, and we have a kind of agreement with ICANN, which has made it possible for us to run the registry. Top level domain are divided into 3 main types. I said 3 main types. Please, let's note that word. Main type is more than 3, but these are the only 3 that you get to, if you do the business, you get to interfere with. We have the generic, that is the likes of .com, .net, and .org of this world. And we have the one that we refer to as country code top level domain. That is when you see .ng for Nigeria, .za for South Africa, you have .ke for Kenya, and so on and so forth. And there are new ones that ICANN started sometime in 2018 thereabouts, where they said that we refer to them as new GTLD. What that means is that if you have money now and you feel that you want to have a registry of your name, you approach ICANN. There are a lot of documentation need to be done. We don't need to go into that. But I'm just saying that these are 3 major ones that you're going to be seeing as you continue to do the business of domain name. That's where you can see .tech, .photostat, .photoshoot, .cisco, and the rest of it. The second and third level is part of that you raise up to provide an online platform for your website, for instance, for .ng. As we continue, we look at domain registration name server. I have to put this because we don't really discuss it most of the time. And because of my experience in this field, I notice a lot of people don't really get what it's all about when they have issue with their domain name. The next thing is that they don't understand how to go about it. For every domain name that is registered online, there's what we call name server. You must attach name server to it. Those name server are the authoritative server for your website. It means that this is what we connect your domain name. You know, when you register a domain name, you think about it. How does this domain name locate where I kept my website? These are the things that make it possible. We always have 2 of them. It's always looking like NS something dot, whatever domain name that is given to it. Like, for example, what I have is NS. I have NS1 .example.ng, NS2. It could be NS anything based on how the server has been structured. So for every domain name, there are always name server that is attached to it. And the essence of it is to be able to point your name to where your authoritative server is located, that is your website. I just say, let me put that. We refer to as NS record. The name server resource record indicate that the server authoritative for zone, they indicate the primary and secondary server. It's always 2. The question will be, why is it 2? The reason why it's 2 is that when one fails, the other one will be able to answer for you. It makes you to be online at all times. You know, anything can happen. One of the server can go down. So it's always safe to have 2. Even if you have 1, it will still work. But then global practice, some even have more than 2. But global practice is advisable to have 2. So let's talk about the ecosystem that we are looking at now, the DNS industry ecosystem. This is a pictorial of the system. Now, start from ICANN, like I've been mentioning from the onset, everything starts from ICANN. Now, it now go to the registry operator. So the NERA fall under the registry operator. And from registry operator, we have the registrars. Under the registrar, we have reseller. That is between the registrant and the registrar. There's always, on most occasions, reseller in between. Even I can identify that because this image is gotten from ICANN. So we are going to talk more about them, the relationship about them now. So this is just explaining the picture you just saw now, explaining it more. Who is the registrant? They are the end user. They are the one that domain name has been delegated to. Just to mention that domain name is not totally owned by anyone. What it means is that it has been delegated to whoever that pay for that domain name, that register that domain name for a certain period of time. If that time elapses and you didn't renew, that domain can be taken upon by any other person. So reseller, they are the registered domain on behalf of the registrant. Like I said earlier, anybody can be a reseller, no matter the kind of business they are doing. Most especially, I use the example of lawyers because I know they do name registration in terms of company registration. They can just jump on register platform and become a reseller. They don't need to set up any infrastructure. The registrar have made everything available for them. I think one of the registrars is going to talk more about that as we progress in this program. So registrar, they are the organization. For NERA, we accredited them their requirement they need to meet before they can become a registrar. So after the registrar, we now have the registry. The registry is now also connected to ICANN, as has been explained. So what are the engagements? What is the relationship between NERA and the registrar, and also cascade to the reseller? So when NERA started, most registry, to be honest with you, they run this kind of model. That is the 3R model, which talk about the registry, registrar, and registrant operation. So this is what NERA also adopted when they started. The implication of this is that we do not handle domain registration directly. If you come to me now that you want to register a domain name, all I just need to do is to show you the list of our registrar and select. In fact, we don't even say go to this particular registrar. All we just do, we advise to look at their platform and get a service from there. So registration can only be done through NERA accredited registrar. Also, reseller that is attached to that registrar. As we move ahead, like I said, this kind of topic cannot be exhausted in 1 week, not to talk of 30 minutes. So I'm trying to be as fast as possible. That is why I'm talking about some of the important part of the business, because even as a reseller, these are the things that you need to understand. These are the things that will face you when you are doing the business. Talk about who is. What is who is? Who is does not really have meaning. That is who is. Just call it who is. Just like that. It's not like an acronym. So it's a service that provides basic information about registered domain name, such as owner contact information, domain availability, and company with which the domain is registered, also called the registrar. Now, what the WIS is doing is that you, as a registrant, somebody wants to register a domain name from you. One of the first things, or a domain has been taken up, or you want to check the state of that domain name, WIS is the best point of call for you. So for NERA, we have developed a platform that we call name WIS.net.ng, which is open to the general public. So WIS, like I said, you can get information about domain name and the advantage of it, but also their privacy challenge to it, which is going to be mentioned in course of this program. So use of WIS. WIS is a tool that has many purposes. It can be useful for any lawful purpose. Now, NERA is trying to engage with law enforcement. WIS is one of the things that will help them to do some of their investigation. WIS data help to identify registrar, allow network administrator to fix problem. Like I said, you want to check the status of your domain name. WIS is a good place to check, if the domain is, it has propagated. There's a word, there's a jargon that we use in the word of domain name. We say domain propagation. What it means is that when a domain is registered, I said it's a distributed database. After like 30 minutes, the domain should be available on the internet. If you discover your domain is not available on the internet, you can check on WIS. You see the status of that domain name. Combat spam. WIS can also be used to track down registrants. For us at NERA, we always advise all the time that when you are registering domain name on behalf of a registrant, it's always good to use that registrant details, because when domain is getting expired, email notification is being sent out. They need to know. Not only that, if there's an issue, law enforcement, also that domain, a lot of cybersecurity issues, cyber attack issue on the internet. If as a reseller, you keep using your details for domain registration, if they use that domain name to perpetrate maybe cyber crime, By the time they go to whois, because for us, whoever that the details has been supplied as a register on the domain name is the owner of the domain name, it's the one that the domain has been delegated to. So it will be difficult for you to deny. So it's always advisable to use the end user's details for domain name. So for, that's why I said whois can be used also to track down registrants who may be posting illegal content or engage in phishing scam. Whois help to maintain healthy internet ecosystem in a way. As I conclude, I have very limited time. I just want us to understand that domain registration reseller are businesses and individuals who purchase domain name in bulk from registrar and sell them. I know that there's a model that some of the registrars have adopted where you buy domain name. When you are buying more from them, you get to pay cheaper rate for that domain name compared to somebody that is coming to buy one. That is why it's always good to become a reseller. They provide valuable channel for customers to purchase domain name for various sources. Reseller can be independent business, web hosting company. It's not everybody that might likely become a registrar at the end of the day, because domain name is like an added service that can be provided. Like I said, lawyer, you are not a developer. You are just doing CAC registration for your clients, and then you advise them to also get domain name, just like an added service to it. Or you've been doing hosting business, or you also have other business that you do. Like NERA have a registrar based in US. All they do is to protect intellectual property, and they have a lot of domain. In fact, they are our registrar. So because of the commitment, when you become a registrar, some commitment you need to be making. You might feel that I don't need to be making those commitments. I don't even have the time. Then you can become a reseller. So with all this little technical knowledge, you are good to go. So that is just all I have to explain when it comes to domain name system. If you have any question, I hope this presentation has been able to shed more light on some light, not more, to be honest with you. Thank you for listening. If you have any question, I'm always available and I'll be glad to attend to your question. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Mr. Akinwumi. Thank you, everyone. We'd like you to drop your question on the chats. But before I start reviewing questions and answer, one takeaway thing that you should know, even if you don't understand any of the technical jargons, if a lawyer can actually become a reseller, so you can. So you don't need any technical background to actually sell any of these products. I look out for questions and answer. Please drop your question in the chat. Okay. It's looking like we are fine with Mr. Akinwumi's presentation. Okay. So I move to our next agenda. I'm sure this is one of the main reasons why we're here. Everybody wants to find a way to make money or side business aside what we do from day to day. He has told us anybody can become a reseller. And if you want to upgrade to a registrar, it requires some level of commitment, which we'll find out later during this training. So of course, we know that most people are interested in the business, the operation, the markets. What are the emerging trends and technologies in this DNS industry? From my research, I got to know that the largest domain name registry in the world is actually VeriSign, who manages .com and .net. You spoke about top-level domain. As at September 2021, VeriSign has registered over 170 million domain names. So you see why I said it's actually a multi-billion dollar industry. Let's now come back to Nigeria. So NERA also has registry for the .ng country code top level domain, recorded its highest active domain name in a single month. That was in January 2023. Recorded 7,802. And currently, we have over 184,000 registered domain name. I urge you to visit nera.org.ng to check our dashboard about this. So also, there's a good news. Something good is coming that will actually support you if you decide to go into the business of reseller. I know there's a partnership, an ongoing partnership that will come out soon between CAC and NERA. I know some federal government agencies have started requesting that businesses, contractors should use their .ng email to file in for documentation. Our next topic will actually address some of these things from a man who's an entrepreneur who trusts in his guts and takes calculated risk. He's going to be discussing market overview and opportunities in DNS ecosystem. His name is Mr. Damilola Aronsiola, the Chief Growth Officer who will host. Over to you, Mr. Aronsiola. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Can you guys see me?
Yes, we can see you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So happy to be here. I'll just share my screen so that I can share my presentation. This one. Okay. So it's fine here. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Damilola Aronsiola, and I am the Chief Growth Officer at Ugos. I'm super excited to be here today. I hope that, I am able to convince you to, come up as a reseller, and the sky is the limit, basically. Ugos, as everybody knows, started as a reseller as well. So, there's a possibilities in everything. So yeah, I'm talking about market overview and opportunities in the DNS ecosystem. But I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be twisting this a bit, right? Because my major, as you guys heard, like I'm the growth marketer or the chief person at Google Host that manages the growth. So I'm going to be telling you about the part of how the market opportunity and what is possible with the market opportunities, right? And then I'm going to link it to how you can also, find the right people to, the next level, if you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, let me go to the next. Okay, so enough about me. I think I'll just keep this page, but you guys can follow me on my Instagram page. I kind of give more information on how to get people to do, marketing stuffs and, all this cool stuff that you might like. Okay, so now, what is the market opportunity like? This is why we're here, right? In 2001, so I just tried to gather my, information from different, and ChatGPT came to the rescue. I like calling it ChatGPT now. I don't know why. Because I feel like the guy just gives so much information fraudulently. But it's a cool information. I don't want to say it's fraudulent, but it's a very good information. But I think the information that the ChatGPT has, I'm not using ChatGPT 4 yet. So ChatGPT has about, I think, 2021 information. So the information that you can get is like till 2021. So that's what I could get. So it shows that NCC talked about, the market opportunity or the internet subscribers, right? The number of the internet subscribers as at 2001 to be 153 million people. That is massive, right? That is huge, And if you look at Sweden, I think in 2001 as well, Sweden said that there are 53 million registered business. 2001, we're in 2003 now, right? So imagine how many, and there's even, this is registered. There's not even a lot of businesses that are not registered online, but they are not registered, but, they are still doing their business online, I know a few, you guys know a few as well. So we shouldn't get into that, but with the data, right, there's still 53 million, if you understand what I'm saying. There's still 53 million registered businesses, which is, superb. It's, and I got a better update. This was ChatGPT. I'm sorry, narrating if I'm using this. So the ChatGPT 3 said that you guys announced 100,000.ng domain names, and I got an update when I was being introduced that NIRA now by 184,000 active domain name, which is that means that opportunity is there, right? There's a big opportunity that you guys can leverage on as a reseller, because there's still this untapped market that can be filled, and I'll talk a little bit about it based on my own experience, right? So that can be filled, right? I was not timing myself. Apologies so bad. Please, if I'm exceeding the time, please let me know. I forgot to time myself while I was doing this. So 84,000 email domains. Google also announced 100,000 active domain names last year, and we've over a period of the years done over 200,000 domain names. So the opportunity is huge. Like, it's there. You can tap into that opportunity, and that's part of what this made up is all about. Now, the next page. Yeah, how can you get started as a domain reseller? Like I said, I'm the marketing guy, so I'll just try to give you as much information as I think it's possible, right? But I know that there are brilliant people on this call as well, or on these in this event will do good justice to part of the thing. I think I listened to the first speaker, and it was awesome, right? I think this is something that that would you would learn across the curve, but I would just try to give you some of my own perspective as well, and some of the things that I think is possible for you to get started as a domain reseller. You can start using APIs, right? Plug into other people's APIs. There's several registrars that have API that you could use, right? Then I was going to talk about a what's it called? A model that I found, right? I stumbled across this model, and I thought when I was asked to speak about this, I felt that it might be a good way for me to also, talk about my experience based on how you can get started, right? So there's this thing called, there's this business that I acquired at some point last year, and I'm not going to tell you about the intricacies of acquiring the business and stuff like that, but something very, very cool about the business was that the business was an Australian business, and what you could do with the business was that the business was a reseller, right? But what he was selling was, it was targeting resellers. It was targeting real estate agents in Australia, right? And what he was doing with these people, and please pardon me, I like going as granular and as practical as possible so that you try to get exactly what I'm talking about. So it doesn't look like I'm all over the place, right? So, and that's why I'm using this as an example. So the business is like, it's targeted at real estate businesses, and what he was trying to sell for, or what he's trying to sell for the real estate guys was that, look, so he does a research on, top domain names. So for example, let's say domain, he targets places like Melbourne, for example, in Australia. So, and this can be replicated across board in Nigeria, in wherever you can name it, right? I think it's ingenious stuff, but it's a lot of work, which I'm not putting too much work in right now. But, the guy would help you do a research. So the research is about, let's say, real estate in Melbourne, right? So he does the research, looks for real estate in Melbourne.com, for example, or .ng in this regard, right? And tells you that, look, for this domain name, right, so he does an SEO search to kind of see how much traffic is going to that domain name. So for that keyword, rather. So for what he's saying is that for each of the, let's say for real estate in Melbourne, for example, and you do your research and you find out that 1,000 or 5,000 people search for that keyword regularly every single month, right? So what you're doing is that you're picking that domain name, right? And you're selling it to the real estate agents and saying that, look, if you have this domain, right, there is a possibility for you to generate a bit more traffic based on just having that domain, because you know that when people search for that domain name, right, all you have to do is to have that domain name, have it up, and then once the person is searching, there's a possibility that Google will pick up that domain name because it's synonymous to what that person is trying to search, right? And then what it just finishes up with that, then you are able to, so if you have a website, if you have a Facebook page, if you have an Instagram page, whatever page you have, right, it can redirect that domain name. So for example, in this regard, real estate in Melbourne, for example, right, it can redirect that domain name to your own page, right, or to your own websites, right? And I think it's ingenious because, and how much does it sell? How much does it sell the domain name? The domain names were about $30 or $25. He sells it for about $5.99, right? And he calls it a premium domain, and just goes out and out and out and out like that, right? So, like I said, I was just going to talk about that. I'm not saying you guys should follow that route, right? But the point is this, right? There's a massive opportunity. You just need to be creative about ways you can sell these domain names. There are so many ways that you can do that. That can work with plumbers. That can work. I'm not talking about plumbing in Nigeria, like plumbers outside Nigeria. It can work with real estate here in Nigeria as well, and so many other places. So yeah, pick up that. I would give that as a goal. Now, so that's like the first case study, right? That I felt I could share. And like you could use API as well. So many ways. Like I said, you have to just be as creative as possible to get this done. Now, like I said, my point is telling you about the ecosystem, telling you about how big it is, what the opportunity is like, and how you can tap into the opportunity. I think I talked about that a bit more, but like I said, I feel that a bit more people will do justice to that on the call. But a part of, like, that I love to talk about really is how do you get your first 1,000 customers, right? And it's important because I can just tell you about the opportunities and what is happening. Like I also saw on the agenda, like some cool guys, like we'll talk about marketing and how to get market. I respect Ahmad as well. I think you want to listen to him as well on break down things on how to acquire your customers. But I felt like this this is what I could also, make on this my presentation, so it gives it a bit of flesh. Now, understanding the funnel concept, there's something called funnel, right? I'm not sure if anybody knows about that, but I like to talk about the funnel concept this way. Like, so imagine that you have like okay, please, can you guys hear me? Because I think that there's a bit of background noise on that.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
can.
can.
Awesome. Okay, so all right. So I like to use this analogy from describing sales funnel or funnel generally. And I've done a lot of videos just on explaining it, but this is how I like to do it. So imagine that you walked into a restaurant, right? And you saw this fine, gorgeous lady sitting, and you want to approach the girl. And your first approach, right, would be going to the lady and say, and I can ask, we can do a poll right now, and the ladies will tell me that is not possible, right? But working to the lady and saying that, hello, would you marry me? Like, are you out of your mind? I don't know you before. Like, this is the first time I'm meeting you. Why would you ask me if I would marry you? Like, are you insane? Do you understand? But in a flip side, if it was Wizkid, if it was Davido, right, approaching the lady, and we, like I said, we could do a poll and we could turn this over, because everybody will have their own perspective, right? But Davido approaches that same girl and tell that girl, like, hello, would you marry me? I can bet 100%, maybe not 100%, not all ladies are after money, but say 90%, just to be, we say yes. And the point is this, right? Davido has done a good job of actually building a brand, or getting to know that person. So in the flip side, so if you were not Davido this time around, but you are still you, and you've walked up to the girl, instead of saying, hello lady, would you marry me? Or hello beautiful, would you marry me? And you said, hello beautiful, are you alone? Can I sit? That's a better ask. Like a little bit of not being intrusive, but being intrusive, if you get what I mean, right? That's the way marketing works, right? And then, you gradually want to be intrusive as little as you can, but trying to also know that person, right? And that's why, they say that courtships do lead to marriage, right? And that is marketing. If you understand marketing to be that way, you win every single time, because you don't have to always go aggressive. I see a lot of people, oh God, my time, sorry, I'm being concerned all the time. So I see a lot of people, doing this, and all they have to go is, I have something to sell. I have something to sell. Hell yes, you have something to sell, but I also have things I need to do in my life. Give me value first. And maybe if you give me value, maybe if you make me look like human, like if you make me feel like I'm human, right? That is when I can even decide to even buy your product, right? So enough of the rant, but I think you understand the concept. The concept of funnel is, how do you gradually get to know your customers? How do you gradually get into their intrusive states? And, just use that to, get what you want from them going forward, which is for them to open their wallet to you, right? Okay, so, and I'm just going to give you like a brief overview of how you can get 1,000 customers for yourself. And when it works, please come back to me and tell me. Okay, so growth. So there's something called the funnel, growth funnel, right? And I was talking about how you can gradually do that over a period of time. Now, there is don't worry about these acronyms, right? It can be confusing. I try to explain as quickly as possible, but this is called the R formula. AA, triple R, right? So we call it R framework, right? So there's the acquisition, and that's the first part of how do you find your customers? What are you doing with customers? So there's the sales funnel and there's the growth funnel, right? I don't want to kind of, like I said, I like my classes and my stuff like this to be as practical as possible. So I don't want to really convince you, but there's the sales funnel part. The sales funnel part is how the customer perceives you. But the growth funnel part is how you, grow with that same funnel. So it's the same funnel, but look at it as you being the owner of the funnel and how you perceive how your customer comes to you. But the sales funnel is more of how the customer journey is like, what the customer is doing based on each funnel that you have built. But this is all about the growth funnel. Now, the acquisition part, there's the acquisition part, there's the activation part. The activation part is where, like, what you let your customer do first with you when they are on board, right? Then there's the revenue part, you make money from it. Then there's the retention part, and there's the referral part, right? I'm not really going to focus on all of these funnels because they can be confusing. It took me so many years as well to perfect them. So I don't expect that I will let you know about all of those things in just one single presentation, right? But I'll pick the basic one, which is the one at the top, right? Which is acquisition. How do you find your customers, right? How do you get them to, dine and wine with you? How do you get them to open their wallets to you, right? Now, you have to always think in buckets, right? I have this analogy that if you want to find, I was listening to Accounting Hub. What's her name? I can't remember her name. There's this lovely lady that talks about how to. I think she and Nelly Nelly of Niger Branch, they are very good friends. I can't remember her name, but Accounting Hub, and she was talking about this same thing, right? And the concept was that how can you need to understand that marketing is based on conversion. So, like, you have to understand that if your goal is to get 1,000 people, you have to understand that 1,000 people would mean that you have to look for 100,000 people, because conversions are based on so many things, right? And when I mean that, when you, and that was why I was talking about the sales funnel, right? When you ask somebody to download your ebook, for example, your conversions with that would be a bit higher when you ask them to buy from you, because those commitments, those regular commitments that you're getting people to do over a period of time, right? It is based on, that's what you call conversions, right? And the stronger the commitment, let me put it that way, like the stronger the commitment, the lower conversions you get, right? So you have to think about it. Like, I have this analogy, I've seen it, like when you sell to cold audience, and when I'm talking about cold audience, people who have never heard about you before, when you sell to cold audience, you have about 0.5% conversion or even 1% conversion in converting them. Cold audience, people who have never heard about you and they're telling them, buy from me, right? But when you bring them, warm them up, and when I'm talking about warming them up, giving them contents and stuff like that, right? Making them like you, right? And which was what you would do with the lady in the restaurant, right? Making them like you, and then, asking them to buy from you at some point, then will then probably mean that at over a period of time, you can get that conversion from like 0.5 or 1% to about 5-10%, even 25%, depending on how well you have warmed these people up or how hot this traffic is, right? So you have to always think in buckets. You have to know that for you to get 100 customers, you have to reach out to 5,000 customers. And maybe if your conversion rate is that about, okay, let's say from these 5,000 people, I'm able to get 100 people to buy from me, then my conversion rate will be about 5% or 10%, right? So you want to know your conversion rate, and that's how you think. And now, once you have now thought about it, like, okay, if I need 1,000 people to actually interact with this thing, interaction first, right? It's not even see. See is different because I can see your content and ignore it, right? But seeing is different, right? Interaction, how can I get 1,000 people to interact? That is now, you now start solving that problem of traffic with that mindset that you have already built. So I'll just quickly brush through this. So there are different ways that you can get people to, there are different ways that you can get traffic to yourself. Like I've done my research over again. Like I feel that there are 4 major traffic sources that you can get anywhere. 4 major, they can, if you think about any other thing, it will perfectly fit into this 4, right? The first one is outbound. The second one is paid traffic. The third one is affiliates and partners. The fourth one is referrals, right? Those are the 4 ways that you can get traffic for yourself. Now, what are the ones that I think is possible for you to do, right? And okay, there's one that is supposed to be here. There's another one which is yeah, I think is outbound, right? But the point is this: what are the ones that I think, you know, without having money, I pay traffic straight, you need money. If you don't have enough money as a reseller and you want to play rub shoulders with Google, I said Google, rub shoulder with GoDaddy, rub shoulder with Ugo Host, rub shoulder with Namecheap, and you know all these other guys that have money for advertising, then they play. You pardon me. You're playing, right? You are just obviously playing. So what you need to do is that if you are just starting out, outbound is the best way for you to go, right? Outbound, affiliates, partners, and you know, when you do a damn good job, then you get referrals, right? But I'll just touch up on outbound. I think you can use outbound. I talked about cold calling, right? These guys, what he does is that he gets on the phone with people, you know, the business model I talked about, you know, gets on the phone with these people, pick up the phone, cold call them, you know, has like a script written out, and you continuously just read the script to them over and over again, perfect your script. And, you know, once you get your first sale, second sale, third sale, and then, you know you have a perfect script, and then you can scale hiring people and doing other stuff. But you can only do this when you have that domain name to be premium, nothing else. Now, aggressive outreach using outreach channels. I've tried so many outreach channels, especially for outbound marketing. And when I talked about outbound, sorry, I didn't talk about what this outbound means. Outbound is actually you doing the outreach, you know, moving out there and, you know, trying as much as possible to find people that you can't convert or get them to buy something from you, right? So outbound is, so you could use aggressive outreach. You can use channels like WhatsApp marketing. And like I said, I'm not really going to go deep down into that. I feel that some other people on the call will do good justice to this, right? And yeah, and you can shoot me an email if you have if you need help, you know, understanding some of these things that I'm talking about here, because they might just be really, really superficial, right? But yeah, WhatsApp marketing is a good way for you to do aggressive outreach. Found out about OneMation. OneMation is a good tool that allows you to broadcast to so many people at the same time, but I think those guys are going to be dealt with soon. But yeah, OneMation, OneMation.io. What's the name again? I can't remember this other guy's name, but OneMation, OneMation.io, very good tool, broadcast, you know, reach as many people as you can on WhatsApp. Good stuff, right? You could use LinkedIn outreach as well. LinkedIn outreach, you could use Expandy.io. You could use It's this other tool that's a bit cheaper than Expandi.ai. I can't remember. But Expandi.ai is about $99. But for your LinkedIn, you need a sales navigator attached with it. So you might not be able to do that. So you need a sales navigator as well. And for Instagram marketing, you might just hire somebody to just send about 50 messages per day to people. The point is this: you want to be consistent in your outreach. You could use emails. I have not seen success with emails, but I've heard some people tell me emails work, right? So could do blast outreach with emails. The goal is that you're consistently reaching out to people every single day. So it can mean that consistently every single day, I'm making sure that I'm able to reach 100 businesses that will be interested in my domain or my premium domain or in my domains. Do you understand? I'm reaching one, and what you now do is that you can now break down those businesses, find them wherever you want to find them. You can do that on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, what have you. There's a lot of ways that I can go about that, but I'm not going to go deep down to that. Now, using content marketing is also a very good way for you to do this, right? And I do this very well. And like I said, if you go on my Instagram, you get to see that I'm always dishing out content, right? And this content has not really been, it's not even really for me to get followers. The content for me is to kind of warm people up to me, right? So you know that I'm an expert at what I talk about. So even if I'm talking to you, like I want to ask you for money, I want you to pay me money, right? And I'm talking to you and you're not convinced. And I tell you, go to my WhatsApp, go to my Instagram, right? And you get on my Instagram and be like, you're seeing content, you're being like, okay, I think this guy might probably know what he's talking about. So maybe I should give him a shot, right? So you want to constantly create those contents, right? It might not be video content, it might not be short form, it might be long form, get people on this is a content marketing stuff that Nira is trying to do, right? It's get people on the call and try to warm them up towards your goal, right? And then over a period of time, you can sell to them. It could be ebooks, it could be subscribing to your LinkedIn newsletter, it could be video calls, it could be anything, right? Just think about content and then leverage that content. The one you're comfortable in doing, you do that, and then you can leverage on that. But the goal is that you want to be consistent with it as much as you can. Affiliates, I hope I'm not out of time yet. Please let me know if I am, so I can just rush this. Now,
5 minutes. You have 5 minutes more.
Thank you very much. That was really helpful. Okay, 5 minutes. Now, this partners is very, very interesting. And I got to know about this based on a podcast that I was listening to, and I tried it as well. It really did work. And the thing is that, do you know that sometimes your friends have your audiences, right? And a whole while back, when Facebook and Instagram still had those good reach, where if you post and 1,000 people see it, you post to 1,000 people and 1,000 people see it. Not right now when you post to 1,000 people and you just have 5 likes. You understand? But the point is this, right? You want to stack up people's audience that are in your audience, right? You want to make sure that these people, you want to first understand who your audiences are. Once you understand who your audiences are, you then want to stack up those audience that your friends have access to. Do you understand? So let's say if you scroll through your phone right now, you know that your friends, you have like 10 friends. There are some friends that have 5,000 followers. There are some friends that have 1,000. There's some friends that have, the point is this: how can I get all of these people, stack it up to 10,000 followers? You don't really have to have the 10,000 followers yourself. Stack it up to 10,000 followers, right? And I mean your friends list. So let's say friend 1, friend 2, friend 3, friend 4, friend 5. the total of their followers is about 10,000, but you know that these 10,000 followers are within my audience. You have to do that first. If they are not within your audience, then you're joking, right? So 10,000 followers within your audience, then consistently post to them regularly. Have your friends, let them, friends that will help you, right? Consistently post your stuff to them regularly. Do this for 6 months. And I'm sure that, you will get return on your investment, right? I mean, your investment based on time, not money. And if you have money, paid advertising works, right? Then you might also want to leverage on. So the goal for affiliates and partners is, who are the people that have my audience, right? In large, and when you remember, think in buckets, right? In large amount of people, right? Who are the people that have my audiences, and how can I reach them, right? So that's how you want to position yourself. So it can be influencers, it can be Facebook groups, it can be so many other things. Like I heard one guy talking about a strategy one day where, he bought a course. He knows that the people in this audience are his own audience, right? And he bought a $500 or $1,000 course, right? To get access to that community, right? Once he had access to the 10,000 communities, then he started reaching out to these people one after the other with his own offer. But the point is, rather than paying Facebook to get access to $1,000, you cannot even pay Facebook to get access to 1,000 engaged audience, right? It's too small, right? So rather than paying Facebook that $1,000 and where you just get about 10 people who will engage with you, why not pay somebody and have access to that and, build your audience that way? I know that I've said a lot of things, and I hope, I'm able to, convince you that this is possible. You can start out with just doing, just by even not spending money, right? I was listening to Niger Branchie this morning. Oh, I saw a post this morning, and she was talking about how to leverage TikTok getting your audience. Those are cool ways that you could use as well. TikTok, nobody's even talking about TikTok right now, right? In Nigeria, nobody. Google Host is not looking, Namecheap is not looking, GoDaddy is not looking, Mira is not looking. That's your best channel. Please pick it up, right? So, I've said a lot of things, and in conclusion, getting your first 1,000 customers can be done as fast as you can, or as fast as you want it. You just have to put in the work and be tenacious with it. And I'm very, very sure you will get to your goal. Thank you very much. And I hope this was helpful.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Damlola Amosiola. That was a good presentation. I have 3 questions. Some people are actually asking if we're going to send the video and the paper. Yes, we are going to send it. We'll upload it on with a link and share with you via your email. Same thing with the papers that have been presented here today. So Mr. Amosiola has actually told us, for you to be a reseller, you need to build a brand, understand the market. You need to you don't need to actually sell to everyone, and you have to be consistent in reaching out to everybody. I like the fact that they've used the case study from Australia, and in my head I was thinking, oh, okay, if I'm going to start a reseller's business this morning, the first thing I'll do is to first go and what we know as summarize in marketing, we call it STP. So you segment your market, target your audience, and you position your brand. And I was looking at, oh, okay, how do I get all of this put together? So I know there are so many brands on Instagram that rely on Instagram to actually promote their businesses, and you can't find them on any website, which they are potential markets for me. So I can actually face a particular segment. He made mention of somebody from Australia who focused on real estate. So I can focus on baby teens. I can focus on a particular industry and target all of those people in that area. Because if they're doing Instagram today, what it means that those businesses are lost. and I start consulting for them and become a reseller. So one question for Mr. Aronsiola. Somebody is actually asking, okay, Paul Oluwaseye James is asking, what is API? How does API work for the reseller? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so API is I'm trying to think about it myself. Don't mind me, I'm not technical. I'm not the technical person. I'm just API. I'm trying to find the full name of API, right? So I'm not sure. Maybe ChatGPT will help me. But API, the use case of API is that API allows you to connect directly to a registrar, right? So when you plug in that into your system, so when you plug in that into your website, right, you don't actually have to rely on anybody to do the manual work of, taking the domain live. I think, the first speaker was talking about, the server and, trying to make the domain propagate and all those things. You really don't have anything. Thank you very much. Application program interface, right? You really don't have to do much. All you have to do is when somebody comes, they search for the domain name, right? The API allows them to search for the domain name on your own website, right? It allows them to search for the domain name, see the availability, right? If the domain is available, and then, pay for the domain name. Once they pay for the domain name, we don't even have to do anything. The domain name propagates automatically, and, they have access to their domain name, and then you can connect it to their website, and their website loads, right? So that is what the API is like, and that's how it works, right? There are several registrars that have that on this, with Nira. We also have it at Ugo as well, right? So you can, check it out. But yeah, it just allows you to plug in directly where you don't really have to do a lot of work to get things done.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Questions? Let me just review the chat room. Questions? Okay, that will be all for this session. Thank you, Mr. Damilola Aronsiola. We'll move next to our next speaker, who is going to discuss with us marketing and registration of the .ng resellers package. The practical hands-on training for resellers using WHMSCS. This person is a leader in the making, an entrepreneur with over 10 years of work experience in web technologies, internet startup businesses, and management. Welcome with me to discuss with us reseller partnership strategy. It's one of leading registrar. His name is Mr. Ahmad Mukoshi, founder, CEO, Jigleya. Over to you, Mr. Mukoshi. Mr. Aronsiola, you need to drop your stop sharing, sorry.
Hello and good morning, everyone.
Good morning, we can hear you.
Right. My name is Ahmed Mukoshi, and today I'll be taking us on domain registration and marketing for .ng domains. I will be sharing my screen in a moment. Sorry about that. There's a security feature not allowing me to share screen, so I have to kind of allow it. Okay, looks like I can do that. Okay. Is my screen visible now, please? Anybody to confirm that?
Yes, 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 yes.
All right. I'll start with introducing myself. My name is Ahmed Mikoshi, and I run a web hosting company in Nigeria, and also I have worked in the hosting industry for over 15 years now. I have had experience in domain name systems and also in domain sales and marketing. So today's session on my own side will last 30 minutes, and I have a plan to kind of segment it into three, which I'll use 10 minutes in each. The first part I'll be talking about is the domain system and the sales and the marketing part. Then I will talk about the registration part. And lastly, I will talk about the hands-on experience with WHMCS. So without much ado, I think we can step into it. So there are some key areas that I feel all resellers should know about domain names. The procedure for registration. Mr. Shegun has done some justice in the system, and I believe he has also made a lot of touch in the area of the registration. But there are some key parts I would like to highlight, and we will talk about them in details. So the first thing every reseller should know is the who is system. Mr. Shegun did mention about who is, and you should just know it as who is. But who is actually the database of domain name registrations. It's a protocol which you can query that database and get information regarding any single domain name. While I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to share more so that we can just, because my session is mostly on practical hands-on, I'm going to share a little bit of who is lookup query, if my screen permits. So can you see the blue screen, please? Can everyone see the blue screen as well?
Not yet. Okay, it's coming up. Okay, it's
Can you
coming
see
up.
it now?
Yes.
The anchor, can you illuminate, right? You can confirm for me. It's coming up, right? You can see it?
Yes, we can see the blue screen.
Okay, great. I was talking about who is, which is something you need to know. Before you register any domain name, it has to be available. The reason is because no two people can have the same domain name at the same time. The registry maintains one registration per domain name until that domain name expires, another person cannot have it. And the WHOIS system allows you to query that database and confirm that a domain name is not registered, or if it is, who owns it. And for every reseller or registrar, that's the system that they use to provide service to their clients, because clients pay you for registration and it's mostly done instantaneously, meaning that you make a request, they confirm its availability before then they take your money for registration. So the reason why I brought up this blue screen so that we can take a look at how we can query a domain name on a WHOIS system. So I'm just going to run a command, simple WHOIS, then I'm going to give it a domain name that I want to know. Let's say, can we try Nira, please? Nira.org.ng. And I'm asking my server to query the WHOIS database for Nira.com.ng, and let me see what happens. Great. So as you can see, response has been provided for me, and I can see information about the domain name. So the first thing is Mr. Shegun did explain something about the registration protocol, the docs. He made example of the root zones and the rest. I wouldn't talk about that, and then we go into the most important information. So it gives you that referrer to let you know it queried the .ng, and it queried the .net, and then it queried NIC, and then queried WHOIS to get you this information that it is giving you. And now it can tell me that this domain name is registered by the Nigeria Internet Registration Association. I could see administrative contact. I could also see technical contact. I could see name servers, which Mr. Shegun has explained to you what these things are. And most importantly, I could see the name servers that domain is pointed. It's talking about more important aspect of it is the registration period. So because this information is a lot, I want to speak. Yes. Domain name here, registration ID. I have created date. The domain name was created 2009, and it's the registration expiry to 2099. So basically, WHOIS allows you to query any domain name and get its information. And this is the way you check availability. So the next thing is for the registration of a domain name, you would need minimum of 2 name servers. What are these name servers and why do you need them? So name servers allows your domain name to specify where it is going to. Mr. Shegun has also did a little bit of explanation on that, but I will go broader for you guys. So the valid name servers allow your domain name to point to a particular computer, which we call a DNS resolver, to give you response to where the files or content of that website should be retrieved. And it doesn't just give the contents of the files, it also gives every other information regarding a domain. You can check where does the email go to. So if I send an email to Nira today, you can know where this email go to, which server receives it. And if you want to see what www.nira.org.ng goes to, it's a web server, so that your browser can navigate you to the exact web page that you need to be at. So these name servers, we call them authoritative name servers. So they contain every detail of your domain name information after registration. So what does the domain do and what servers or computers or whatever it is that your domain name does. This information and record is stored by these name servers so that when your browser requests them, this server will provide. And I'll go back to the technical aspect of things and we will take a look at querying a DNS, right? So there's a tool called DIG, and I'm just going to quickly take a look at what name servers that domain name of Nira points to. So I'm just going to go for NS, which is name server, I'm querying for name server. And I just need a short answer, just so that I can see what name servers this domain points to. So these are the name servers that the Nira domain goes to. And what this means is that these 3 name servers, we call them redundant name servers. What they do is they allow domain names to, if one of them is out for any reason, maybe no network or server is down, it goes to the next. And there's no order. So it doesn't mean that NS1 has to be queried first before you go to NS2, or cp.nira has to be queried first before you go to NS1. No, they are supposed to contain the same information so that whenever we query any one of them, and if any one of them is down, we can query the second one. Because this training is not much technical, I'll just be on the surface. I just brought up this technical aspect so that you can understand how the system works. So I'll just take an example. I want to send an email to say shegun@nira.org.ng, and I want to just be sure that if I send him an email, he gets it. I want to be sure that that domain name has an email. So I'm going to query one of these name servers. I'll just pick random. I'll just query the second one, which I'm going to dig, and I'm going to ask it. I'm going to give it which meaning I'm telling it to ask this particular name server for nira.org.ng. And this time around, I'm looking for an MX record, mail exchanger record. And I'll just need a short answer so that it doesn't fill my screen. And we can see that the mail exchanger is telling me that there's a mail server, which is nira-org.ng.mail protocol, whatever it is. And basically, this is how the internet works, and this is how the domain name system works. Without a name server, there's no way you send an email and you will know where to deliver the email. And there's no way for you to have a website. I'm going to make a short query again for an A record. And this time around, I'll ask for the www so that I'll see if Nira has a website. And voila, it gives me an IP address. If we go back to what Shegun has explained before regarding domain names and IP addresses translation, if I'm going to enter www.nira.org.ng, basically I'm trying to query this particular IP address for the website of Nira. And what happens is this IP address will return the content and the website to my browser so that my browser can display what Nira's website has to offer for me. But I have to remember this IP address, which is not cool. So what happens is I use this domain name to query for this IP address. So I have we understand why name servers need to be there. The third thing here is the contact information, which is the registrant information, there's the admin contact, technical contact, and billing. Common mistake that I see people make, registrants and also resellers, is to ignore any or all of these contacts and put any spoofed or random information. I think Mr. Shegun has also explained that this information is very important to be there on that domain name. Most people think it's for legal purposes, but it's also for authorization. So Nira can know, or the registry can know who owns what domain name. And that information is important to be registered when registering that domain. The fourth thing you need to know is the validation period, valid registration period, which is between 1 to 5 years. It cannot exceed, and this is for the .ng domains. Each registry has its own limits for registration. Sometimes you might have 1 to 5 years. Other times you can have 1 to 10 years. But the minimum is always 1, and there's always a maximum. You can register a domain name within that period, and you can renew within that period without having any issue. If you choose to register a domain name for 2 years, you can as well renew it for extra 3 years within that period, but you cannot renew or register beyond that given specific period. Lastly, which is more important, keeping records of your registrations just for the renewal sake. So as a reseller, don't just register domain names for people. I think Shegun has touched a very interesting part. When he was speaking, I was really happy to mention that nobody owns any domain. Every domain is just delegation by the registry saying you have paid us for a period of time, as we've spoken, 1 to 5 years, and you can have this domain name for yourself until 1 to 5 years exceeded, unless you renew it based on terms and conditions. So if you register a domain for 1 year and you come back 1 year, 3 months later, don't expect to have that domain name. Although there are grace periods and other things that you may need to explore later, which I will not cover in this discussion, but you cannot have a domain name registered for 1 year and you expect it to last 3 years or 2 years. You can't. Even if you have registered it before, you will lose it once it becomes elapsed, because your delegation period has elapsed. It gets removed so that another person can have it. So I'm going to talk about choosing a registrar that you should partner with for your reseller business or registration as a service. And some of the important things about this is you can actually partner with any registrar of your choice when it comes to partnership or providing registration for your clients. There's no limitation. However, I'm going to pick up some key areas. If you really mean to do domain business as your full-time business or as your yeah, full-time business, if you want to do this as full-time business, there are some key areas you need to focus on. If you're doing it part-time, maybe you just want to handle registration for some people. In most cases, what I'm going to talk about next doesn't really matter. You can actually register your domain names with any of the registrars, and they will provide you the service you can manage for your clients. But let's skip a bit when you want to be a reseller that provides extensible and fully crafted end-to-end solution to your customers, meaning you may want to provide them a dashboard where they can manage their domain names. You may want to also provide them support for their domain names when they have registrations with you, or you have additional services that you want to add to your domain name so that so that your clients can have value for their domain names aside from just the registration. So some handy tips that I would suggest for you is always pick a registrar that is ready to serve you not as a client, but as a business. Because in most cases, registrars are there to provide registration to end users, most registrars. Some have span to cover registrars and, registrants, which are end users, and also resellers, such as yourself. While some just focus on the registrants, the endpoints, right? So don't make the mistake of going to a registrar who just focuses on the registrants. If they're selling like the end use case, not for resellers. I'll give an example with selling Coca-Cola, right? There are wholesalers and there are retailers of Coca-Cola. If you're buying one bottle of Coca-Cola, it's always good to just go to any nearby shop that has it in the freezer and you just or the fridge and just pay your money and you collect it and you can go. But if you're dealing with clients coming to you to pick up Coca-Cola and sell you to you're selling Coca-Cola, it's always good to have a partner that can provide you with maybe a truck or maybe a fridge themselves where you can freeze your Coca-Cola or make them cold. And other services, even flyers, even marketing documents or whatever it is, you should focus on that kind of relationship. So you should look at resellers, registrars who have such end-to-end solution for businesses. Next thing you should look at is pick a registrar with enough industry experience and expertise in the domain system. Meaning, do not, because there are budding registrars, right? Those who, okay, they've gotten their accreditation, they can do registration for you. But the question is, how much experience do they have? How much expertise do they have in managing domain names and more? And if you have critical issues with domain names, like resolvers issues or DNS, like this morning, there was a critical problem I was facing this morning that has to do with DNS, and it's really advanced. Like if someone is going to have that kind of problem, not just every registrar will be able to solve that problem. So lastly, pick a registrar that has tools that you can use to build your own business, like billing software, which I'm going to talk about, WHMs. Additionally, also like payment solutions, even extended support. So basically, pick this registrar that has all the tools you need, even live chat or whatever it is that can help you set up live chat, set up billing software, and the rest. So I wouldn't want to jump into this. I personally have a recommendation for this, but this is reserved, so I'll skip this slide. But if you need to check, there's a registrar that has these tools. I personally work with them. GigaLayer also works Gadgets, which is a domain register, but only providing tools and APIs designed for resellers in mind. So if you need all those extensible support and tools that you need to manage your services and packages that can help you kickstart your reselling business for domains with all the necessary softwares or code, and including APIs. We just talk about APIs in the session, I'm not sure. But APIs are application program interfaces. I think somebody made a question to Daniel about APIs. Yeah. So I'll talk about that briefly. APIs are application program interface. They allow your system to communicate with another system using program language. Basically, you don't need to do manual clicking, logging, and all of those things that you have to do. Just send commands and you get responses. So you communicate with the system over an application program interface. And you can check reseller.ng, I think, for that information. So I will jump into the marketing, because I was advised to touch a little bit about marketing, which I think Resellers has done a wonderful job about that. I wouldn't want to talk too much. But niche marketing, I want to briefly talk about. So most people come into reseller business because they want to sell domain names to end users, right? And you don't have to do this by basically creating yet another domain reselling or registration endpoint. One moment, please. Okay, yeah. So you don't have to do this by yet creating another endpoint for registration of domains, meaning, because I noticed this is a common trend. You just want to build up a website where people can register domains, but why? That's the question. Why? Why would you do that? Because there's already too many places to register domains. So my advice is always find a niche market. Resellers did mention about businesses which they acquired that was doing sales of domain names as a reseller, but they're also doing it to target, I think, real estate or something he mentioned. So something like that. Find a niche. And I think Shegun did give an example of using a law firm where you do registration, company registration for businesses. You could as well add up with a domain registration as a service, or you are a web design industry where you build websites for people and you can add domain registration to it, or you are an email service provider and you sell email as a solution, but people need to have domain names, of course, so that they can create emails. You can add up email. So whatever it is, I don't know, but find a niche where you can actually couple domain registration as a service and add it to your offering. Don't just come up with, I just want to sell domain names because there's money in it. Now, I think that was the beginning of this session. There's a lot of money in domain industry. Don't do that. Personal advice, don't, because there's money in every industry. That's what I believe. That's what my mentors have always told me. There's money in every industry. Someone is selling bathing soap and he's millions. Don't think it's only domain names that can make you millions. No, somebody is selling singlets and he's making millions. Somebody is selling toothbrush, he's making millions. So don't enter into the industry because of the money. Understand what you're trying to do. Understand the solution you're going in. And my advice, as always, is put icing on what is already there. Like if we are all here selling domain names, find what we are all not doing and then do it. So yeah, I was just talking about that. So it's not an art, it's just, it's not a science, rather it's an art, right? So there's no one way about how to sell domain names. Like everybody needs to follow through that same channel. It's the same door. We all line up and just keep passing through. That's not it. You can understand what your clients need, what is their need, and factor in how you can add up domain names as a solution to what you want to offer to them. Or you can look at even what everybody is doing and then figure out what we are not doing right, or Eagle is not doing right, Google Host is not doing right, every other registrar is not doing. Then you can come up with something and you can sign up as a reseller and start building top of that. So lastly, I did say I was going to talk about 3 areas: the registration and finally the WHMCS billing software. I was asked to discuss or put hands on WHMCS, but I would like to emphasize that many people decide to choose WHMCS because it's the largest in the industry and it's the biggest used billing software. But for you, there's box billing, there's Blaster, there's client exec, there's host bill aside from WHMCS. You can check them. They are all very good. I have been opportune to use about 3 of them there on the list. Box billing I've used, client exec, yes, WHMCS, yes. But my experience is mostly in WHMCS, and I am an advanced user and developer of WHMCS. So I'll be taking you on just hands-on experience with it, and let's see what we can do with it and what you can actually achieve for your domain service with WHMCS. The important thing about this is that so that you can automate most of your processes, you can deliver clients area for your clients where they can actually manage or maintain their services with you. And if there's more you want to build beyond what WHMCS supports, you can actually take a look at box billing. It's a very good one. I can also recommend it for you. And I think the costs licensing for Oxford is a little bit lower than that of WHMCS. And I think host bill charges one-time fee, things like that. So you can look at all of them, and there are more actually. You see which one tailors for you very well, so you can use it. And thank you very much, everyone. So I will be getting ready now, so we can do some hands-on with WHMCS and see what it looks like, how to use it. So give me a second, let me prepare my screen for that. I know there's question and answer session. The anchor, please, if you can ask, they can do their question real quick before I finish my
Please drop
session.
question for Mr. Mukoshi if you have question.
All right, I think I have it already. So I think I'll just go ahead. So this is so this is WHMCS, and this is the admin area after installation. I actually wanted to get us to do the installation, but looking at the time frame, it might not be favorable that we do the installation from scratch and all that. So what I decided to do is to say, okay, let us just run one that is already installed. But installing WHMCS is as easy as ABC, and you can just do it using ready-made installation tools like Subtaculous and other ones that might be available, or you can just download it. WHMCS.com is their website. We can quickly just sorry, the anchor. I just noticed that my time is up. I don't know if I can still go ahead to.
Yeah, let's take
continue on this.
5 minutes. 5 minutes
Okay.
to round up.
All right, so I'll just quickly. You can check them, WHMCS.com, very easy. I wanted to open the page. All right. Yeah, so you can go to the pricing page to see what their options are available for you. And you can sign up, and they'll give you a download link where you can actually download their installation file and you can go ahead with your installation. So once you finish your installation, you get to a page like this. And what this allows you to do is, first of all, you can set your domain prices. You can do that going to settings. There's a setup wizard that you can actually go through that will allow you to configure basic things like payment options. I'll just go through this. Once you sign up, this is the first page that comes up, just in a few steps to help you set up your system. I'll skip some of them just because they're not required here. I notice my network is a bit slow, so just skip this page. This is where you configure your company name, configure payment options. This is not part of this training, but I know that all the payment gateways in Nigeria are mostly available for the patients. Yes, Paystack is, Flutterwave is, name them. All of them are available for you, so you can just contact them. They'll get you their payment gateway, and you can just integrate. Okay, I'm not going to integrate this service. Yeah. So most importantly, the domain names, you set the domains that you want to provide as a reseller. Yes. So because of time factor, I just want to walk you through what this looks like. I'll skip it for now. And once you're done, finish. Okay. So once you're done, you get to this welcome page where you can actually manage domain prices. So you can go to setup now. So setup activities. Settings. Okay. So yeah, once you get to this setup, you can come to domain prices. After that selection of your wizard, it will just bring you to that landing page where you are, and then you can go to domain prices. Actually, before you even go to domain prices, there's something that we need to do, right? Which is configure a registrar. This is where you already have a partnership with a registrar that will fulfill your ends of registration when your customers order and they pay. So I'm just going to go to do that first before we come here. Usually there's a shortcut here for you. So I'll just fix that. Domain registrars, you can see it. Can everyone see my screen? Do I need to zoom it?
Yeah, we can see us.
All right. So you can go to domain registrars to configure. There's a lot of things inside WHMCS. Just don't get overwhelmed at all. It's a very simple, easy, straightforward tool that you can use to automate your processes. But you might encounter one or two things. Just avoid jumping into things you don't know. Once you see them, you can just go online. I'll show you also where you can find documentation for the WHMCS so you don't miss anything. I just want to show you, once you have a registrar, this is where you can add. They will give you a module, and in this case, there's 101 domains. So it depends on which registrar you're using. You would have their own module. This ones come by default with WHMCS, but your registrar will give you their own module if they do. If they don't, you have to build. I don't know. But then they'll give you a login tokens. And once you've configured this, now you can see on this page, I have about 101 domain in GoDaddy activated here, and R1 partners, and some of them are regular. So I'm going to go to domain prices so that I can set pricing for my domain. This allows you to put a price for your domain. Means you don't have to sell exactly what the registrar is giving you. You have your own margins and all of that. So if you come here, you can actually see there are other domains added already. I can add a new zone, say maybe.ng, right? And then I can select a registrar, which you have already activated by default, I assume. I'm just going to select Breakthrough, for example, and I'm going to save changes. Voila. So now, automatically, I have .ng here. And the next thing is I'll set my price for it. Prior to setting your prices, you must have configured your currencies. This currency is in multiple formats. You can actually have NGN for Nigeria, Nigerian Naira, and other currencies. But I'll also show you how to set currencies. Let's assume this is in dollars. I could just take this and put $10. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Sorry, guys. So I'll just select $100 I put in there for 1 year. And you can actually set different registration period, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So this is $100 for this year. Select this, it's 200. So it allows you to set in your transfer fees, and extension is just a renewal fees. So you can actually set your prices based on registration different from renewal and transfer. Another thing you could actually do once you've done that and save, it automatically pops in. I'll show you briefly how to do that. Then the next thing is currencies. So here it is, under payments. You can go, and also payment gateways. There's no much time for me to go through all these things, but let me put in my passwords again. It just needed to confirm that I had logged in so I can proceed. You can actually create new currencies here. Apologies for the Russian It's installed by a Ukrainian company. So this is not coming from me. So I just needed to use this for the demo. Needed it for translator to translate this. But you can set in the currency. As you can see, there's a pounds, dollars, and all of that. And once you're done, you would have client area where you can find your clients. And I'll show you what the client area looks like. This is the endpoint, and this is where your customers can come in, and you can search for a domain name, say travel.ng. Since I've already set in, okay, that can be available. Let me try something that could be available. Testing. Okay, and you can see I set $100 earlier. So now you can see it says travel online testing. The form is available, and because I had already set the price, it now tells me it's $100 because that was what I entered together with you. So I can click add to basket and proceed to checkout. And as you can see, I can proceed also name service. Okay, I didn't need to proceed to show that. We discussed about name servers and why we need them. Because this domain I'm about to register needs to have name servers. So I'm setting this as my name servers, and then I can click proceed so that the registrar can have the name servers to attach to that domain name. And then if I click on proceed, now I need to fill in my name, email address, phone number, and all of that for the registration of the domain. And I can also select contacts. Translation is not coming, and the changing language will take me a while. Okay, I can actually. One minute, please. I need to change this to English so that we can all see it. So yeah, you can need to fill in your name. This is the registrant information, and if you had another contact, you can add it. You need to add another contact. As usual, we explain why you need all of this, and then you can check out to do the registration. And basically, this comes to the end of this training or session. I hope that you learned something out of this. I'm sorry that it's a short period. I had to just use 10 minutes to do this, but this is something you may need some hours to do. And it's very easy. So finally, I think I did mention I'll share you where you can get documentation for WHMCS. If you need to get it, whmcs.com. And if you need to know all that you need to know in terms of using it, installing it, managing it, adding clients, just go to docs.whmcs.com. Sorry, I added docs.whmcs.com. And they have fully documented everything you need to know about this software, from adding clients, using the WHMC clients, how to add a client, you can find it here, common actions, and take your time, no rush, read all of it, understand how it works. It comes with themes, so you can customize your design, language selection. You saw me change language. You could actually do all of that. Payment gateways, you can add products and services for those of you that want to do hosting or other services that you want to sell, maybe email solution or whatever. You can actually just use this software. So thank you very much again. I hope I delivered justice to this session. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mukoshi. That was a wonderful presentation. I have two questions for you, but because of time, we'll have to take it after the next speaker. But one of the questions is something you can actually do. Somebody is actually asking for your social media handle, so you can drop it on the chat box for other people to see. Next on our hello.
I think I already did that on the screen so that they can maybe take a screenshot or whatever they need to do. This is my social media on the thank you page. Mukoshi is, or my last name is on Twitter, on Facebook, and everywhere you want to find just Mukoshi, my last name. You can write it down real quick, or you can just take a screenshot. You're good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we'll move to the next speaker who is going to be talking to us on marketing strategies. So imagine a nation where you have 41.5 million MSME. 41.4 million of those MSME are actually micro enterprise. You have 73,000 SME. Then you have 109 million internet user. What's the best way to create value and ensure your end user capture value? Who are the registrants? How do you tap into the market share? Strategies for marketing DNS services, targeting different customer segments, building brand awareness and trust, leveraging on social media and other digital channels. Now, to make justice to this, I invite a business coach, research analyst, and a certified trainer, Mr. Segun Shugbamu, our Chief Strategy Officer, ProNedge. Welcome with me. Over to you, Mr. Shugbamu.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to be here. I've been looking forward to being with you guys, actually. So I'll just dive straight into the meat for today. So by way of introduction, I'm going to share my screen. By way of introduction, my name is Segun Shugbamu, and I do a number of things. One of them is actually being the Chief Strategy Officer at ProNedge, and I also teach at a business school as well. I'm trying to share my screen, and I believe I'm a tech bro, but something is wrong here. Okay, let me put this off. Okay, share. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Allow Zoom share your screen. Oh, no second.
Not yet.
All right. All right. I'm sure you will be able to see it now.
I think we lost Mr. Segun Shugbamu. So I'll go back to Mr. Mukoshi. Mr. Mukoshi, are you still there? Let's just take your question.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So from somebody is actually asking, to start as a reseller, what business registration should I do apart from CAC?
I think CAC would be the most important registration you need to do to identify you as a business, whether it's sole proprietor business or limited liability business. Aside from that, maybe perhaps I would suggest you do your registration with any bank to get customized bank accounts so that you can have your business name on your bank accounts. I think CAC is the most important to identify you as a business. I don't see any other requirement for you to be a reseller or sell domain names other than that for other people.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shugbamu, are you back? Hello, Mr. Shogbamu. We can see your screen, but we can't hear your voice. Mic is actually muted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Yeah, thanks. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right. So I'll just quickly dive straight up into what we have for today. All right, so we are talking about marketing strategy, right? And interestingly, so you guys are experts in your industry, in that, yes, you know your industry, you know about your business, but so my job is not to tell you about your business. My job is to tell you about how to think about your market strategy for your business within your industry, right? And that thinking is actually a very critical thinking process, because how you think about it is important. Is an important prerequisite to how you actually execute it. All right. So what we're going to talk about today, I will try and summarize at the beginning. I'll also try and then eventually summarize still at the end, so that we remember everything that actually I will be discussing. So first is that we said that to be able to craft an effective market strategy, right, you need to think about a process of creating a plan that outlines how a company will promote and sell its product or service to its target audience. But if you read that sentence very carefully, right, one of the things that it talks about is for you to think about target audience. In other words, the intention of market strategy is not for you to just make money, right? If you look at the brute way that many people think about business in Nigeria, it's about, okay, so how do I do X, Y, Z to make sure that I make money? Which I understand that it's an end goal, right? But then one of the things you must think about carefully is that if you don't do marketing strategy right, at the end of the day, you may not achieve that particular goal you're trying to achieve.
You are muted, Mr. Shogbamu. Check from your side. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've been unmuted now. Thanks. So I said, if you don't look at it carefully, if you don't deal with it carefully, what we found at the end of the day is that if you don't execute marketing strategy very well, we may not be able to achieve that goal that we have actually set for ourselves. All right. And if you look at the whole of this course or this program or this class, every that way, market strategy essentially is actually focused or more or less divided into 4 parts. And you can see the 4 parts in terms of segmentation, targeting, positioning, and messaging, right? It says that effective market strategy is crucial for businesses to succeed in today's competitive market. Why? Because if you don't think about these 4 things and execute these 4 things very well, you will eventually get into a problem that you may not be able to get out of. So the first thing we need to think about is, if I say I want to succeed in the markets, one of the first questions you must ask yourself is, who am I? Because a good understanding of who you are helps you to be able to create whatever kind of marketing strategy that you want to implement. So what do I mean? Generically, strategy is described as how to win, pretty much, right? And 3 things are very crucial. The first is, who am I? Second is, who am I competing with? In other words, what's my competitive environment like? So it's not just who the person I'm competing with, but what is the competitive environment like? What is the which includes the person I'm competing with, which includes my customers or consumers, depending on what I'm actually selling. In your case, it's pretty much a customer consumer, which is a B2B kind of situation. So by B2B, I mean business to business, as opposed to business to customers, right? You're also thinking about Who are your sellers? Who are your suppliers? What is the regulatory environment like? Because the truth is that if a government brings out a regulation that distorts your industry, it will affect you. So you also have to think about that. But beyond this two that I've mentioned, which is who am I? And by who am I mean, what is my capability and my competencies? So that's who am I. The second is, what's my competitive environment like? But the third is, what is the goal I want to even achieve? It is the understanding of these three that then helps us to think about how to design a marketing strategy. So the first part talks about segmentation. And what's segmentation? Market segmentation is a process of dividing a larger market into smaller groups or smaller bits, pretty much. In other words, there's a possibility that you're going to have a big market, but your intention is not just to go into the big market. Your intention is to understand the market. And for you to understand that market, it means you must have to take a step backwards and say, if I break this market down, what are the different parts that I have in these markets? Because that's important for you to know who then do you want to target your services to. If you look at it carefully, right? If you consider the kind of business you have, let's assume you're a business that just started probably 6 months ago, 1 year ago. You don't have so much money to push marketing and sales, and you're thinking about how to get customers for your business. If you understand the kind of business the business you are in, and your what's the word? The peculiarity of your business, right? There are some customers you will not bother about, true or false. There are some customers you will tell yourself, it may be difficult for me to convert this person. As a result, you don't go after them. And this is the reason why you do segmentation. So you break the market into bits and pieces. But when you're breaking the market, how do you break the market? Some people break market based on demographics. So that's when you talk about the age, the gender, income groups, right? Some also break the market based on behavioral patterns, right? So they look at the purchasing history, the brand loyalty. But when you combine all of these things together, you can actually break your market based on psychography. And I'm going to show you some typical example of how some companies have actually broken the markets into different psychographic groups. Why? Because when you break your market into psychographic groups, for example, it makes it easier for you to know who you can service best and who you can actually convert to become a customer. Do you understand? There are some, like I said, there are some customers or some potential clients that at the level you are at the moment, it will be difficult for you to actually convert them. And that's why we do segmentation. So that by the time you break the market, you can then say, I want to target this particular group. Once you get that group, then the next thing is, okay, now I want to move into this particular group. So segmentation is actually very crucial. And you cannot do segmentation if you don't understand the markets, right? So post-segmentation, what else then do we think about? We think about targeting, which I've actually alluded to. I said, so target market refers to a specific group, and it could be corporate consumers or customers that aim to sell your products or services, that you aim to sell the product or services to. Now, knowing your target market is essential for effective marketing campaign, increase sales, customer loyalty, because if I know my target market, I can speak the language of my target markets. For the sake of analysis, let's look at it this way. You sell domain names. There are some customers that it's easier for you to reach at the moment than for some of your competitors to reach. Why? Probably because of proximity. Imagine you tell yourself you want to focus on only customers or companies within the Southwest. That is breaking the market based on what? Geographic descriptions. But also imagine you decide that you want to focus on only fintechs. I can give you, for example, I worked in a company where we broke the market by saying we want to focus on only the 5 biggest industries and the 6 fastest growing industries. 5 biggest industries and 6 fastest growing industries. Note, they are not essentially the same. Now, there's a possibility that one of the biggest industries may also be the fastest growing. But anyway, when we looked at this in 2019, they were not the same. There were 5 biggest distinct, and there are 6 fastest growing industries. Those were the focus for that particular company at that particular point in time. And the reason we chose those different classifications then was because if you look at the biggest industries, they can afford the kind of money we're billing, right? But if you also look at the fastest growing companies, they are such that they needed our services so that they can remain fastest growing industries. Do you understand? Now, one of the things that segmentation and then targeting also does for you is that it makes you almost a specialist at that market you have chosen, at that niche that you have chosen. Imagine that you tell yourself, I'm focusing on only fintechs, for example, just for the sake of analysis. It means that it's easy for you to understand the pain point of fintechs, understand why a fintech will want your domain name, and understand why a fintech may not want your domain name. Let me throw out a random question. Who knows a reason why a company or why potential clients may not want a .ng domain? Why some clients may not want a .ng domain? Note, the question I'm asking is in negative. Why they may not want a .ng domain? Can anybody give me an idea? I can't say anybody reason needs a hand up. Okay, now I can see Prince here. Yeah, Prince. Please, let's hear Prince. Or let's see from the charts. They might feel like, okay, somebody says they might feel like the .ng might restrict them to Nigeria and look local. Yes. They don't want to be identified with the brand Nigeria. Okay. International, I don't sound too much international. They may feel it's only in Nigeria that will be accessible. Yes. Because they are not in Nigeria. Yes. Right? That could also be a reason. Victor, you have your hand up. Victor. I think.
Okay, something similar to what you read out in the chat, only that in my own view, I think maybe some businesses might not want the .ng they feel it might project them as local players, and if the aspiration is to be a global player, they would prefer a .com or possibly another domain name.
Exactly. Now, one of the reasons why you need to understand what are the potential objections that your market or your niche may have is because part of you executing your strategy is that you must have responses or answers for their objections. You don't go to a customer while you are trying to sell or position yourself. Your customer then makes a comment, and then you begin to wonder, what do I say? What's my response to this? How do we respond to the market? Respond to this particular query, right? You must not just be a seller. You must be pretty much a consultant to them to be able to explain to them, hey, no. The purpose of which you're having a .ng is to show some sort of unique identity, not because you want to limit yourself, for example, right? And that's why you must understand the unique questions or reservations of your niche. In other words, the trouble for your niche may not be the trouble for another niche. The trouble for that segment you have decided to go for may not be the trouble for another segment. In other words, the way you have positioned yourself or you have decided to to identify yourself, right, is a solution for that particular segment you have decided to go for, not for everybody. And that's why really we have to be careful about how we segment ourselves, one, and then next is, so who do we then target amongst those that we have segmented? If you segment your market into 4, for example, and you're asking yourself, so among these 4, who do we target? What do you think you have to think about? You have to go back to what I said previously. Who are you? What are your capabilities? You don't go into a battle that you know you are going to lose, except you know that based on my capabilities, I can still thrive here. I can thrive in this particular segment. Now, the fact that you don't have all the money in the world does not mean that you cannot do well in a particular niche. No, it is the strategy you decide to use in that particular niche that determines how you are going to win. A very good example the horse riding, for example, comes from a military background, right? And what that means is to say that, look, if you consider the North Vietnamese soldier and the American soldiers when they fought, America had superior weapons. America had more money. The population of America was more. America had everything that was good for them. But the North Vietnamese soldiers still won the war. Why? Because they understood their enemies. They understood who they are and their limitations. If I know, for example, that the weapon I have is a knife and the weapon you have is a gun, I'm not going to fight a distant battle with you. Why? Because you're going to shoot from a distance and you will kill me, right? Instead, I will want to fight a very close battle with you, right? The same thing applies to this. Once you understand, after dividing your segments or your markets into different segments, you have to ask yourself, which of these segments am I going for? A better understanding of what segment to go for, I will show you more afterwards I think some slides following this, right? But after targeting, the next thing you have to think about is positioning. Positioning. You have to position yourself as a business that's creating a unique and compelling image or a value, right, for the customers that you're actually targeting. So here we say, it's not just about having a great product or service. It's about communicating your value to your target audience in a way that resonates with them. By mastering the art of positioning, you can create a powerful brand that attracts customers. Brand loyalty drives revenue. By positioning, you can move customers from the initial end of customer journey to the last end of the customer journey. Now, what are the journeys that the customer goes through? The first part, journey of a customer, is actually awareness. In other words, if a customer does not know about you, you will first at least want the customer to know who you are. So that's awareness. But once the customer knows you, that is not the answer to the problem. And that's why, unfortunately, many of us, after we do our segmentation and targeting, we are satisfied that a lot of people know us. But a lot of people knowing us is not our objective. After the targeting, there is a phase called, after the awareness, there's a phase called consideration. In other words, that's the phase where a customer begins to think, should I purchase a .com.ng or should I not? Why should I purchase a .com.ng? Why don't I go for a .com.ng? That's a consideration point. And at that consideration point, the question is the customer considering you? So after awareness, we said consideration. The third stage after consideration is now conversion. This is the stage where the customer says, I'm going to buy a .com domain from Ahmed, from Olumide, from Philip, from whoever, Emmanuel, Francis. That's a conversion stage, right? But even a conversion stage should not be a satisfactory stage for you. There are too many people who actually run multiple businesses in Nigeria today. In other words, the fact that you bought a .com.ng from me today does not mean you shouldn't come back tomorrow to buy for your next business. And that's the fourth stage, which is loyalty. Loyalty is the fourth stage of the customer journey, to mean even after the customer buys from you, which is conversion, I want the customer to come back to me. That's loyalty. But look, loyalty is not a situation where somebody buys from you because the person does not have a choice. That's not loyalty. If I come to you because you are the only person in the market and I don't have a choice, that's not loyalty. Loyalty really is the situation whereby the person comes back to you, even when there are other options, and those other options may even be cheaper. But too many of us get satisfied even at this point of loyalty because the person comes back to you. But the fifth stage that we need to really strive for is the stage of what? Advocacy. In other words, rather than me telling other people about Francis, rather than me as Francis telling other potential customers about myself, I want a situation whereby my customer is telling people about Francis. So the question is, what are you offering? What are you offering? And this question is a question that we do need to rush to respond to. I'm talking to Victor, talking to Francis, to Paul, Emmanuel, every one of you. What are you offering? Are you just selling a .ng domain to me? Is that all you are doing? Because if that is all you are doing, why shouldn't I buy from Uluwatobi, for example? Why should it be Emmanuel? Why? What is it that you're offering me that will make me come to you? And that's where the question of value and utility comes in. When you offer something that is really good, we say it is valuable. But when you offer something that gives me satisfaction, you say it has utility. The question is, .ng domain may be valuable, but are you offering me something that gives me satisfaction, that gives me utility? And guess what? You cannot offer something that will give me utility if you don't know who I am, if you don't understand my pain points, if you don't understand my pains, if you don't understand why I want a domain name in the first place. So, which is why I said at the beginning, your job is not just to sell. Your job is pretty much to be a consultant to them, to understand. And you cannot be a consultant to every segment of the market. You can be a consultant to the segment you have chosen. Why? Because you have become a jack of one trade and a master of that. Being a jack of 60 trades, it will be difficult for you to be a master of 60. Let's be realistic with ourselves, right? If you're a jack of one trade, or at least few trades, right? In other words, if you're a specialist, if you're choosing two different segments, for example, because maybe those two segments are complementary, right? Then you can really study that segment. You can really understand that segment. And when you understand the segment, you understand the nuances in that segment, it's easy for you to offer both value and utility, that satisfaction in that segment. And if you can do that, if you can replicate that, it means that you have positioned yourself. You have chosen a particular place in terms of targeting, but you have actually positioned yourself to say, I'm giving XYZ value and I'm giving ABC utility. Because it is that satisfaction that will make people not just say, wow, I like the service that Oluwatobi has offered me, but I'm going to tell others about Oluwatobi. And let's be very realistic with you. Word of mouth marketing is very, very powerful. I'm not saying you should depend on word of mouth marketing as your outright marketing strategy. No, I'm saying that whatever you do, make sure that your word of mouth is very strong. By word of mouth, I don't mean what you tell people. I mean your word of mouth of your customers must be very strong. I can tell you about a mechanic of mine, for example. I stay on the island. My mechanic is on the mainland. And the guy is so good that he will never lie to you to say, I will come when he knows he's not going to come. He will not tell you, I will finish the car by 2 o'clock when he knows that a lie by 5 o'clock he's still working on the car. It would point down and say, oh, that's right, I can't do this thing today. Till tomorrow. And that tomorrow, you can be sure that he's going to do it. In fact, he is so reliable that there was a particular day my car got bad at home, so I couldn't drive it to him on the mainland. And he said, okay, I'll come to your house today. What time? I don't know, but I'll come to your house today and I'll fix it. I kept asking him what time. He said he wasn't sure, but he knows that today he will come to my house. Guess what? He showed up in my house at 9 p.m. and he came with different touch lights and he came to fix the car. At that point, I'd lost hope. Now, guess what happened after that? The guy gave me value and he gave me utility satisfaction, right? So there was a day I went out somewhere, I went to a particular church function, and I was supposed to talk about leadership. And while I was talking about leadership, I made the mention of these mechanics during a church session. And in less than 2 weeks, the mechanic called me and said, Oga, I don't know what you told people, but I don't have enough time to even fix the cars that come to my workshop again. Why? Because one person made a positive word of mouth about one person's service. The question is, what kind of word of mouth are people having concerning your service? Is it positive or negative? Because guess what? Negative word of mouth travels faster than even the positive ones. In as much as positive word of mouth is strong, negative word of mouth is stronger. So, when you have segmented the markets and you have decided to target the segment you're going for, either segment or segments that you're going for, right? Because like I said, you can have complementary segments. The next question is to position yourself in such a way that, this is what people are looking for. And a good example of my mechanic was that this guy knew that what people are looking for with mechanic is reliability, truthfulness, and then skill. So he positioned himself to offer those two, and he was getting customers. Do you understand me? So the question is, what are you offering? Are you just selling .env domain? If that is it, then it's going to be hard business. I need to get into the mind of the customer. That's the second I've chosen. I need to get into their mind and understand how they think. Apple does not go to do normal research. So by normal research, I mean questionnaire, interview, focus group, which I'm talking about, right? They don't. Why don't they do that? Because they believe that many customers do not even know exactly what they want. So what they do instead is that they try to understand the psychology of their customer and their customer groups, and then they understand what is the trigger of each of the customer or customer groups. For example, I know that an average youth, is trying to belong or to be accepted. And part of being accepted is to say, let's give them a mobile phone such that they will so love, and anybody who uses that mobile phone will automatically belong to a group. So they make you belong with the phone. Go and ask 80% to 90% of those who use most of those Apple products. They don't use up to 10% of the functions on those devices. Either the iPad, the Mac, the iPhone, they don't. But guess what? At the same time, when they buy pouches for their phones, they make sure that the pouch for that phone must show that it is Apple. It doesn't make sense for them to buy an Apple phone and use a pouch that will cover the logo, because the logo was what they bought. So they were offering something. The question is, what are you offering? Talking about propositions, if you look at some of the companies on your screen, I'm going to send a slide to you anyway. If you look at some of the companies on your screen, some of these companies are actually known for specific things. For example, if you look at Apple, Apple says think different, right? Nike says just do it. You have Amazon. But one of the ones I love the most, you can guess right, is Patek Philippe, right? The full expression says You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely hold it for the next generation. You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely hold it for the next generation. What do you think? What proposition do you think the company is trying to push? Because when you position yourself for something, then you must have a proposition. You are telling them something about yourself. What do you think Patek Philippe is trying to promise with this? With their expression, you never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely hold it for the next generation. Somebody says legacy. Legacy. On the chat screen, somebody says legacy. What else do you think they're actually saying with that expression? Any other person? You never really own a Patek Philippe. You merely hold it for the next generation. Anyone else? Longevity. Yes. Longevity. In other words, when you buy a Patek Philippe, it's not a watch you can say, this is my watch. No. You use the watch, but at the same time, you're actually keeping it for your children's children. And that's why if you look at the advert of Patek Philippe, what you usually see is, you usually will see a generation, 3 generations of maybe sons, for example. Maybe you see a boy with a father and a grandfather. And then they hold the watch. Maybe the son, for example, wears the watch. What they're telling you is that when that communication is that, look, this thing has been with the grandfather, with the father, and then with the boy. That boy eventually will also become a grandfather, and the grandson will still own the Patek Philippe. So it's legacy, it's actually longevity. The question is, what are you proposing to your market? What? Because after choosing a niche, you can't just simply tell them that I sell .ng domain. No, you must go beyond that to tell them, I'm offering you a solution. Look, it's not difficult for you to convince anybody to buy a solution, because it's not difficult for you to convince anybody to solve their problem. It's like somebody who is not feeling fine, you have malaria, and you know that this particular drug will help you solve your malaria. Of course, you pay for it. If you don't have the money, you borrow it. It's that simple, right? So what solution are you selling beyond, I'm just giving you a .com.ng domain? Let me see. Okay, I need to be fast. Now, we said conduct market research, because the truth is, for you to actually say you want to break your market into segmentation, you must do research. In fact, if you don't put anything down, please put this down. The quality of decision you're going to make with respect to market segmentation or even your market strategy is heavily dependent on the quality of information available to you. The quality of decision you're going to make with respect to your market strategy is heavily dependent on the quality of information available to you. And for you to get quality information, you must do research to understand the market. You must do research to understand how the market is structured. You must do research to understand how the different players in the market, how they think about their businesses. You must do research to understand that, hey, in as much as this particular segment, they are a business because your business is B2B. But this particular segment, they think like customers, they think like consumers, they think like a B2C transaction. If that is the way they think, the question is, how do customers, individuals, how do they think? Because look, some people actually, they will start a business today, they will buy a domain today, but they have not started utilizing it particularly. So they are thinking, maybe they are in university, they wrote an app and they registered the business. Because they registered that business with CAC, they quickly want to buy a domain name to keep that domain name, right? So they are not particularly utilizing that domain name now. They just want to keep it. If that is the segment you are targeting, my goodness, You must understand that segment very well. How do they think? What do they need? Imagine that you understand that segment so well that you are a consultant to then say, hey, register your domain name. It's easier to even register it .ng, and you find it, you can find it, and you'll be proud of your heritage, because a lot of people, for example, now are doing Nigeria, right? A lot of Nigerians in diaspora are also trying to associate themselves with the Nigerian brand. Now imagine you have a data that solidifies or that validates that proposition to say more Nigerians are doing this. If the only data you have is remittances from diaspora alone to show the interest of Nigerian diaspora in Nigeria, by all means, why can't you? If the data you have tells us that, hey, look, if you go anywhere in the world, if you pick 6 people, one of them must be a Nigerian. And then we are saying that these Nigerians are now looking back home. And then we are also saying that, look, many people in Africa, if you go on YouTube, for example, and you go to a music video, see how many people in different countries out of Nigeria, within Africa and out of Africa, are trying to associate the Nigerian brand. And if it's that data you have alone, what do you think you should do for that particular segment that you have chosen? So that's why you need to do research. Research is not for you to tell somebody that most people do, nobody wants to know about most people. Tell me 25% of people who, tell me 45% of people, tell me 60% of companies. That is what I want to hear. That is research. Not most people. So many people. That doesn't mean anything at least to me. And to many people, it doesn't mean jack. So do your research. And research will come in any form. You can do inexpensive researches. Research doesn't necessarily mean that you have to print paper, questionnaire, go to people door to door. You can use SurveyMonkey, Survey Gizmo, all of these things. Create your questionnaire and then spread out using your phone. Get feedback so that to give you insights as to how your segment is thinking. And of course, create a buyer persona. I'll quickly jump for you from this slide because the next slide helps to see how a company decided to create buyer persona for their customers, their B2C relationships, right? So look at this, it says a vast spectrum of diverse customers. Look at the first one, it says progressive affluents, trendy aspirants, balanced seniors, evolving juniors, struggling traditionals, wannabe bachelors, female conservatives. These are different descriptions of different personas, and these personas are segments that have been created. I can see that the trendy aspirants are 29%. This is research. I can see that the wannabe bachelors are 9%. But guess what about the difference between the trendy aspirants and the wannabe bachelors? The trendy aspirants are richer than the wannabe bachelors. But the wannabe bachelors individually will spend more than the trendy aspirants. Can you give me a reason why? Can you give me a reason why the wannabe bachelors will spend more as an individual than the trendy aspirants, in as much as the trendy aspirants are richer than the wannabe bachelors? Anyone? More disposable income? Not exactly, because the trendy aspirants actually have more money. But the wannabe bachelors, they will spend more than the trendy aspirants. They will spend more than the trendy aspirants. Why is it so? Lifestyle, yeah. Because they want to be. And when people want to be, guess what? They spend more. They spend more. Imagine let me not blow some secrets of some people here, right? But for the sake of analysis, imagine your cousin, your brother, your sister that's in university. Do you know that they don't earn as much, right? But they will buy an iPhone that you are working and you are calculating, I can't buy a phone of 500K, but they will buy a phone of 500K. And why do you think they're buying an iPhone of 500K? Because they want to belong. They want to be part of. They want to impress. And like somebody also said, they have moral responsibilities. So while you are thinking, no, I'm not ready to, I can't invest that. And you are still thinking about priorities, you are doing calculations. They're not calculating anything. They go ahead and then they buy, right? That's because that is their psychography. I understand the way they think. So because Apple understands the way they think, that many of them are the wannabes, what Apple then further did was to say, okay, you can even buy our phones or our devices without paying at once. So you don't have to give us the $2,500 at once. We will make you pay over 12 months or over 2 years, 24 months. Do you understand? And while you are paying over 24 months, they brought out another phone. So what would that person do? The person says, I've only paid $1,000 out of just $2,500. And the new phone is out. So you don't do what? You go back to Apple, tell them you want to do an exchange. They will now value your phone that you bought at $2,500. They value at $600. You now buy a new one again for another $2,300 or $2,700. You continually, you keep paying Apple month by month. Why? Because Apple understands that they are wannabes. And guess what? When that wannabe guy grows to begin to make his own money, right? Rather than just using an iPhone, you now start using iPads and a Mac laptop. Because that wannabe has been built. They fed the wannabe when he was in university. And when he left the university, the wannabe nature is now what? Is now a grown-up. So he still wants to be. And because you have been, you don't want to drop, you don't want to come down. So that people will now, we will not say, so this kind of phone you use, no, I don't like it. So you want to maintain your wannabe nature. You keep using that kind of phone or kind of device. Do you understand me? It's about understanding how the customers think. Look at this. If you look at what we have here, we broke into low income, middle income, and high income. Like I told you, you can actually see the trendy aspirants where they are, and you can see where the evolving engineers are. You can see where the wannabes are. But like you said, the wannabe will still spend more. Do you understand? And that's because through research, we've been able to do this. Now imagine you have this kind of information for your industry. Let me quickly go to next. Look at this description. You can see that this first person that we have here, that's the trendy, the trendy affluent, right? No, that's the progressive affluent, sorry. And then we have the trendy aspirants. So look at the description. It says high standard, being the best, standing out and getting noticed. So because it's looking for high standards, whatever you're going to offer that kind of person should be high standard. Taking risks to get rewards, personal appearance. In other words, even what to do to achieve whatever this guy actually wants, right? They will do whatever he needs so that they get what they want. Right? They will do it because they take risks. Quality family time and looking natural self. This is the description of those kind of people. You then ask yourself, what do this kind of people, what do they want? Now imagine we have this kind of description for the different segments that you have in your industry. If you choose, for example, to focus on, let's say, Southwest, or to do Lagos, or to do a particular industry, for example, to focus on a particular industry, let's say fintech, right? The question is, what is the characteristic? What's the nature? What is the profile of whatever industry you have chosen? What is it? This is also for that description, so I will not waste the time on that. This just then says that once I have decided to segment, target my market, and eventually position myself, The next thing is, what message am I communicating to my target market? Whatever message you are communicating must be a message that will help them through that journey I talked about previously, which is awareness. After awareness is what? Conversion. After conversion. So after awareness is consideration. After consideration is conversion. Conversion, loyalty, loyalty, advocacy. What kind of message am I going to have, craft, to move them through that process? And the kind of message you're going to craft is not something that somebody can tell you. It's something you have to think through carefully. Why? Because the kind of capability or competences that you have is different from what another company has. And this is what I've said here. I said, develop your brand voice, right? Brand voice is brand's personality, tone, style, and communication. It's essential for building trust and loyalty with customers and standing out in a crowded market. Different brands have unique voices, like Wendy's sassy humor, Coca-Cola's nostalgic ones. If you look at Coca-Cola, whenever Coca-Cola does any advert, you always see this. You know here, they are moving from taste to feeling. The question is, what are you communicating? And that's why, again, I'm reiterating here, in terms of the value you are communicating and the utility, the satisfaction you are giving the market, you must be deliberate about it. You cannot use the generic formula and say, I'm going to use a generic marketing strategy, right? And these are some sample strategies that you can actually use. But the question I'm asking here is, how can you best reach your targeted persona? Because your persona is that niche you have created that you want to target, right? How can you best reach them? Where are they? There are some people you are not going to meet when you do TV adverts. There are some people also you are not going to meet if you do Facebook. There are some people you will not meet. There are some people you will not meet if you do Instagram. The question is, where are they? And you cannot know that answer except to do research. And then we have then said, created your marketing plan. In creating a marketing plan, you have to go through the process of first defining your target audience. Now, note, I will drop my email address, right, and my number for anybody who wants to get through to me. The reality is that this session is the same session I'll teach in LBS for about 6 sessions, right? 6 different sessions. So I'm capping into like 40 minutes. So that's how I'm actually trying to actually rush, right? But if you have any question, please get through to me. I'll send my email and my number, and then we can actually trash it out from that point, right? So define your target audience, set measurable goals. If you don't have a goal, you have no way you're going. Conduct market research, like we said, so that you can actually get insights. And third is to develop a marketing strategy, which is what we talked about in terms of your segmentation, targeting, positioning, and messaging. And then you have to implement a way to measure. Now, for a way to measure quickly is this. Measuring marketing results is crucial for evaluating campaign success and making data-driven decisions. Methods of measuring includes data analytics, social media monitoring, customer feedback surveys, and sales data analysis. Examples include analyzing website traffic, monitoring social media engagements, and tracking sales data. By measuring and analyzing marketing results, businesses can continually improve their marketing strategies, better target their messaging, and ultimately drive business growth. In other words, if you measure over time, you begin to see some trends. And what data tells you when you measure is that data gives you information. It gives you insights. It tells you, oh no, don't bother with this particular type of people. Bother with this type instead. Or no, don't focus on this kind of messaging. Why not use this type of message? So as you are trying to implement marketing strategy, try also to do what? Measure. Because if you don't measure, you don't know what to implement. You don't know what to do next and respond, right? And lastly, there are times whereby you have to adjust your market strategy. Why do we adjust market strategy? You adjust because if I find out, for example, something is not working, then you need to adjust. Then also, let's go back to what we said at the beginning. The quality of decision you make is heavily dependent on the quality of information available to you, right? So what happens if the information available to you, if that information changes? Does that not mean that you need to alter something? That is why you may need to adjust your strategy. Do you understand, guys? So, lastly, I said lastly before, yes, last this time around. Putting all together, for you to be able to implement a successful market strategy, 4 things are critical. The first is that you have to do a market segmentation. You have to do a market targeting, a market positioning, and you have to do specific messaging. The messaging you do for segment A cannot be the exact same thing you can do for segment B. Why? Because the personas are different. The personas are different. So how then do you segment your specific market depending on where you actually where you deliver your business, right? All of these 4 things, when it comes together, it helps you to actually build a strong, succinct market strategy. All right, thank you. Do we have any question?
Thank you, Mr. Shogbamu. That was a brilliant one. I was just laughing here because from Damilola, he actually spoke to in raw terms, and we try and summarize it to STP. We never knew you were going to come up with the STP model. And if you check Mokoshi also, he advised and said that don't see selling of domain name or .ng as just selling .ng. See it as a value-added service that just like putting an eyes on a cake, you must add it to something, collaborate with something for you to. I talk about your research is actually very, very key in marketing communication and in brand management. I see a lot of posts, I see a lot of messages from organization, and I say, what are they actually talking about? I remember in my school days, the teachers appeals in advertising, and you look at some people's message and you look at who are they talking to. Example of people who are in that on serious states, if you check real estate, you see billboard with different kind of communication. You are wondering, oh, do you expect me to park? I saw one last week, QR code on a billboard and different information, phone numbers, like 5 phone numbers, emails, different information about the real estate product. And you expect me, when my attention span is like 20, 30 seconds, I'll just drive by the billboard. I expect me to park, or within that 30 seconds, or you won't expect me to park and now go and scan the QR code to actually get your product. So research is actually important. It is important for us to understand the pinpoint of our target audience, the customer, people we are targeting. Let me review the chat group for questions. Questions. Okay, Mr. Shogbamu has dropped his contacts. If you want to follow up on him, you can do so. Okay, question for now. Can we get a session with you, Mr. Olusegun Shogbamu, to help develop a plan, or you have resources? So he has dropped his email and phone number, so you can send him a mail. Okay, saying on, we'll move on to the next speaker. So you agree with me that this business, from what we have heard so far, requires trust, and trust is the language to become a successful player in the DNS industry. Requires trust. So when trust is broken, what is next? It requires us to actually build a credible brand, build integrity, be caring to our customers, as well as build a brand that will create talkability. I have a case study that I'll refer to before I introduce the next speaker. So in 2020, the French Data Protection Authority fined Google for 100 million euro for breaching the GDPR, placing cookies on users' device without obtaining their prior consent. So the cookies collected data, including users' IP address, which are considered personal data, under the GDPR. This case highlights the importance of complying data protection regulations when collecting and using DNS-related data. So to discuss on domain name policy, .ng rules and regulations, I have here a lawyer by profession and also the head corporate services, NERA. Welcome with me, Mrs. Busayo Balogun. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coker. Good afternoon, everybody. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
We can see the domain name. Okay, good afternoon. It's good to be here. I just want to appreciate everyone that has been on this call since morning. Thank you for staying with us. And just to appreciate the speaker before me, Mr. Shobamo. That was a nice presentation. Hopefully, I saw that your email is on .com. So I'm hoping that after this session, we would see you on the .ng. Okay, so I will go straight to my presentation. So today, I'll be discussing the NERA domain name policy. This is one of the policies that we have here at the registry. Okay, so really the aim of this policy, this is a 10-page policy, and you can also get this policy is on our website at nera.org.ng/NERA domain name policy. So in case there's need for you to go back, in case there's something you didn't get during my presentation, you can always refer to the policy, which is available on the NERA website. Okay, so I'm just going to take us briefly through this policy. So like I said, what is the aim of this policy? The aim of this policy is to, list like the rules for the registration and use of the .ng domains in the various SLDs. SLDs mean the second level domains. So we have, if you go to the policy, there's a definition section. Under that section, you would see phrases like, the second level domain, the third level domain, the top level domain. What does this mean? A domain name usually is typically made up of several levels. Like the example you see on the slides, we have abc.com.ng. So in this example, the .ng string is what we call the top level, while the .com.ng is the second level. Then the abc.com.ng is the third level. And then I usually like to ask this question. Is there a difference between an applicant for a domain name and a registrant of a domain name? Anybody? You can raise up your hand, you can type it in the chat. Is there a difference when you say, oh, this is an applicant for a domain name registration and then this is a registrant? Is there any difference, or is it tautology? Anybody? Anybody? You can just try. What is the difference when people say, oh, this is an applicant for a domain name registration? Because if you go through the policy, you see that. You see, oh, an applicant, and then you see a registrant. Do they mean the same thing, or it's just, or there's a difference? Does anybody want to try? Okay. Ahmad said, oh, an applicant doesn't own the domain, but the registrant as a registered domain. Good one. That's a nice one. Anyone wants to try? Okay. So I'll take that. So yes, a registrant is actually a successful applicant for a domain name registration. Like we all know, you can be an applicant, you can submit your application to register a domain name, and if it is not approved or if it is not successful, that will not make you a registrant. So that's the major difference. Then as we go along, we'll see that each SLD, in the registry has its own rules. Each SLD is governed by different rules, which we're going to look at much later. And it's very important to say at this point that when you have a domain name registration, when a domain name registration has been successfully registered in your name, what that gives you is just a license for you to use that domain name for the period of time that the domain name is registered for. So what we would say is that, being a domain name owner is just like being a licensee, because the day that, the domain name expires and you fail to renew the domain name and it's open or available for registration and somebody else registers it, then you no longer have the rights to that domain name. So we like to say that a domain name license just entitles the registrars, to own that domain for the specific period of time, that domain name is registered for. And then if we go through the policy, we have general rules that govern the .ng domain name registrations. Like we said, NERA would always have a right to check all applications. So whenever an application is received, from the registrar, NERA has a right, under the policy to ensure that that application actually complies, with all its policies. And if there is a similar name that has already been registered by another registrant, that application for that domain name would not, be, approved. So if you go through the policy, I'll just go through the next slide. You see some other general rules, and then I would like to say that for the domain name SLDs, there are two categories. We have the open SLDs, and then we have the closed, SLDs. I'm sure people are asking, what do you mean by open SLDs? What do you mean by closed, SLDs? For the open SLDs, it means that there are really no restrictions as to the applicants that can bring an application for, registrations in that category. For instance, you have the .com.ng, you have the .name.ng, the .i.ng. But when we say that an SLD is closed, it means that there are certain criteria that need, to be met before an application in that category would be approved. Meaning, the applicant has to satisfy certain criteria. For instance, the SLDs you find in this category would include the .gov.ng, which we know that is, for the MDAs, the government MDAs. You need to show there's some document that you need to provide, before that application can be approved. We also have the .edu.ng for higher institutions, the .sch.ng for primary and secondary school. So these are the examples of the closed SLDs that we have here at NERA. And again, if someone asks, can we just register all the domain names? Can I just bring an application? Are there restrictions? Are there names that we cannot register? Tell us, let us know. So yes, if you go through the domain name policy, we have certain restrictions on some domain names. There are some domain names that are restricted, meaning you cannot register these domain names. So for instance, if you bring an application for a domain name that is considered as offensive, offensive first to the Nigerian community and then to the global community, these names would not be accepted for registration because these names are deemed to be offensive under the policy. We also have some restrictive names. These are names, domain names that if you register or if they're approved, might give a wrong impression. Maybe the entity is affiliated with another entity, so these names will not be approved. We also have the Joe names, we have the premium names, and any existing Nigerian trademark registration. Okay, so now we'll go to the specific rules for the SLDs. So under the policy, like I said earlier, we have the open SLDs, we have the closed SLDs. So we're going to take a look at the various SLDs that we have. So we have the .com.ng. So you would hear, or maybe, for instance, you can hear abc.com.ng, busayo.com.ng. Who, what are the people, what are the organizations, what are the entities that can use, that can register this .com.ng? That's what we're just trying to say. What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules governing this particular SLD? So for the .com.ng, it's usually used by commercial entities. You have your business, the startup, the entrepreneur that wants to promote a business, that wants to open a website. I'm a fashion designer, I'm upcoming. I want my business to be out there. I want people to know about me. So I open and I can register a .com.ng, like, maybe fashionhouse.com.ng, so people can see me, I'm visible on the internet. So the .com.ng .ng is an open SLD really, and applicants can open, any applicants can submit an application as long as it complies with the rules, NERA's rules, then yes, you can register. It is not closed, it's not restricted to certain applicants. And then we also have the .edu.ng, which is a closed SLD, like I mentioned earlier. It's usually for the tertiary institutions, the higher institutions. And when we mean closed in this case, it means that, we will request for certain documentation before an application in this category can be approved. So we want to be sure that that tertiary institution is licensed, by the NUC, or any other regulatory body in charge. We want to know that you have been approved to actually carry out, to be like an award, a degree awarding institution. So those are the things, those are the criteria that we look for. And that is why we usually would refer to that SLD as a closed SLD. And then we have the .name.ng, for personal names, which is, is open. The .net.ng is for ISP and telecom operators. Before now, it used to be a closed SLD, but we received, based on the feedback and our research that we received from, interested applicants, we had a lot of requests coming in, requests from entities that were not necessarily, telecom operators and ISPs asking that they would like to register. And going again with global trends, we decided, this needed to be open up to everybody. So now .net.ng is an open SLD. Anybody can bring an application. You don't have to be a telecom operator. You don't have to be an ISP for you to register your domain under the .net.ng SLD. And then we have the .org.ng, which is usually for the not-for-profit organizations. This is like NERA. NERA's website is nera.org.ng, so and so on. So forth. So we can also go to the others, so the .sch.ng, like I mentioned earlier, is for primary schools and secondary schools. And then before your application can be approved in this category, you also need to provide, a qualifying document that shows that that particular school, has been licensed by the body, the regulatory body, to carry out that, carry out business as a school. So those are the things, that will be checked. And then mostly you register this on the third level, with the .edu.ng. Then we have the .gov.ng, which is a closed SLD, and it is for the government establishments, for the ministries, the departments, and agencies of government. So I'm sure we all know about the policy mandating every governmental agency to register the .gov.ng. So now you go around, you see that you find a lot of these federal government agencies. They're on the .gov.ng. You have the FIRS.gov.ng, you have FIRSC.gov.ng. This is that's an example of the .gov.ng. They've been mandated to register their domains on the .gov.ng. And it's also a closed SLD, like I said, because you need to submit an application, you need to submit documents that would be verified by NITDA. NITDA is the National Information Technology Development Agency. And once that's verified, once it's approved, then NERA would be able to activate the domain. So we also have .mobi.ng for mobile devices and .i.ng. I don't know if there's any questions so far, but if there's any question, please feel free to type it in the chat box. If there's something that you do not understand, that you need clarity on, I'm here and I would answer your question. Okay, so and then on this slide, we see the proposed new SLD. So for a while, there's been talks and discussions on the need to actually open or create, additional SLDs to the 10 SLDs that we currently have here at the registry. We have, the .loto.ng, the .bet.ng, and the .law.ng. For the .loto.ng, this is just targeted at the lottery companies. We think that there's a market for that. We have a lot of them, coming up now, and we think it would be good for them to have their own SLD. So, they're easily identifiable. We see a lottery company now, with the .loto.ng, it's clear that this is this is what they do, and the .bet.ng and .law.ng for members of the Nigeria Bar Association. So they can easily be identified, so they can identify their members, because I know that one of the challenges they've had is, people posing as fake lawyers. People can just go to court and appear, but with this SLBs, if all lawyers can register it, so it's easier for you to ascertain whether this person has actually been called to bar and is a legal practitioner. So these are the new SLDs that are being proposed. Discussions are still on. We've not finalized on it, but these are the new SLDs that we are looking at. So yes, we'll talk about the rules for the .gov.ng. Like I said earlier, is a closed SLBs. There are usually certain criteria that the government agency, the federal government or the state government agency or the local government agency has to fulfill, or the applicant, before the application in this SLB can be approved. So most times the registration is usually done on the 3rd level and on the 4th level. For the 3rd level, it's usually the federal government agencies that would register on the 3rd level. Why for the state governments, and its associated agencies, they would register on the 4th level, and there must be approval. NIDA must approve, these applications before NERA can activate the domain names. So I don't know so far so good. The policy is just a 10-page policy, is a short policy, just detailing or highlighting the rules for these various SLDs. So like I said, if there's anything that isn't so clear, you can always drop a question, or you can always go through the policies. But basically, this is what the policy says. Then again, so these are the rules, and then we're still talking about who cannot register, or who can register using the .gov.ng. So it talks about specialized projects of the government. If it's ongoing for a period of 18 months, you are eligible, you can use the .gov.ng. But normally, typically, organizations or establishments that are registered under CAMA would not be eligible for this .gov.ng. Rather go on the .com.ng, but not the .gov.ng. And then we also know that intermediaries, ISPs, you're not allowed to apply on behalf of any governments. It's a government agency that has to bring this application, because it actually needs to write an application stating, including all the relevant information, which my colleague must have talked about, the technical, the admin, contact, and whatnot. So and basically, and again, the committee is whether it's committee or a task force or a group. We really generally do not need a separate domain name, under this .gov.ng, except maybe your eye profile, or you just want to present yourself as like an independent one particular agency. So the conclusion, like I said, so now, like if you remember when I said in my earlier presentation, I said that geo names were actually restricted names. So right now we have a list of the geo names at the registry. So once you bring an application to register a name that does not fall under that list, the application would go. So yes, there is a list of geo names, and then once an application is brought and the name is not on that list, then NERA would approve that application. Again, in the past, we had a situation where when a domain name is registered in error, maybe you meant to register busaya.com.ng and you registered busi.com.ng, it could not be deleted. But right now, those domain names that are registered in error can actually be deleted, but it actually has to be within a period of 24 hours, and then a refund will be processed. If it's outside that period, 24 hours, a refund will not be made. And this was implemented September 2021. I also mentioned the transformation of the .net.ng SLD zone to an open zone. In the past, it was a closed, zone, usually for the ISPs and telecom operators, but now it's an open zone. Any individual, any applicants can actually bring your registration, under that particular .net.ng SLD, and then if it's in line with NERA's policies, that application will be accepted. That is the end of my presentation. I don't know if anyone has question. I understand that it must have been a long day. We've been here since 10 o'clock. And I realize that when we talk about policies, a lot of people tend to sleep off. I understand we have a lot of techies. So that is why I try to make it as short, brief, simple as possible so that we are not too bored and then we understand and we get the message. Like I said, the floor is open. If there's something you need to know, please, I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. And I would wait for your questions.
All right, thank you, Busayo Balogun. That was a wonderful presentation and short, and somebody is saying nice presentation. Kudos to good work from the. So if you have not gotten anything, if it looks like the policy, laws, regulations were too much for you, I'd like you to usually visit www.nera.org.ng. You get all the policies there. You can also send us an email in case you want to make clarification. And also remember, Ahmad Mukoshi mentioned earlier on that if you be a reseller, you have to be careful around the registrars that look for registrars that actually groom you, registrars that will not see you as business opportunity, but registrars that will actually groom you and help you achieve what you want to achieve in the industry. I think I have questions for Mrs. Busayo Balogun. Okay. So what are the requirements to be a registrar? That's number one question for you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. You want to be a registrar, if you go to our website, we have the requirement, but basically you have to be like a company, you're incorporated, and there's some documents we usually would ask for. For instance, we want to know your company profile, we want to know you want to have your tax clearance certificates, your company has to be registered, and then just a few, because in the past we reviewed the requirements, we got the feedback that some of the requirements we're asking for were a bit tedious and a bit difficult for a lot of applicants to get. So because of this, in the past, we usually would request for a performance bond, which is like a form of insurance, but now we do not ask for that. So right now, the requirement to become a registrar is actually it's been reviewed, and then we do not ask for a lot. But if you go to the website, you will see the documents you need to provide, and you pay an application fee. You go through a test. We usually would have trainings, for applicants. We need to be sure that you can interact, with the software that we use at the registry. We need to be sure that your business is EPP compliant. So these are the things we also look about. We also look at, we also do like a session on policies. So in addition to knowing the technical side, it's very important that you are aware of the policies that actually regulate, the business. And once that is done, the application will be submitted to the board for approval. And once it's approved, we welcome you to join our hosts, of registrars, in building this .ng brand. So yes, so like I said, if you go on our website, the application, the requirements to become a registrar is listed there, the form, the amount to pay, the account to make your payments in, fine. And if there's any other question, if there's something you do not understand that you need clarification on, you can always send an email to accreditation@nera.org.ng and we'll respond and take you through the process. So hold your hands and ensure that we bring you on board to join this wonderful partnership of promoting the .ng brand. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have two more questions for you. Number one is, can I have a .ng domain from the US? Number two, premium domain, are they excluded from publicly available domain when registering a domain? Those are the two questions for you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, you can have a .ng domain from the US, from anywhere in the world. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that we have some of our registrars that are actually not based in Nigeria. They're all over the world. We have registrars in South Africa, in Europe. We have them operating from all over. So yes, you can register your .ng domain name from anywhere in the world. even if you're a resident in Nigeria or not. And we have registrars to adequately cater for those needs. So if you say, oh, you need a registrar that is based, you would find. So you go to our website, we have a list of our registrars and you can always make your selection. Yes, so for the premium domains, yes, we have a list of the premium domain premium domains. Go to our website, register.ng, you find the list there and you can always make your choice and register a premium domain. Currently, price of the premium domain is going for 100,000 naira. This was brought from 1.5 million naira. So I would encourage everyone, if you have been seeking for an opportunity, if there's been a domain name that you've been looking at that has been on the premium list, this is a good opportunity for you to quickly go and grab that premium domain just for 100,000 naira for the first year of registration. Yes, someone's asking why they are expensive. Well, but you know, as the name said, these are domains that, you know, we have determined to have a premium value, either the name, you know, and that is why they are called premium domains, because, you know, these are domains that we think, you know, have a premium value attached to them. And it's no longer expensive. It's just 100,000 naira now from 1.5 million at a point from 7.5 million. So yes, 100,000 naira. Why? Because NIRA wants to make these domain names available to everyone. Happiness. I hope that answers your question.
All right, there's another question before Happiness. I think I will push this to Mukoshi or Damilola. I think they are on the call. This is for a registrar. So can I register .ug from Nigeria? .ug is Uganda, I guess. Ahmad, Damilola, are you on the call?
I am here. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
Who are you addressing it to?
Yeah, the question is, can I register .ug from Nigeria? I think .ug should be Uganda.
Yes, .ug is also a CCTLD from Uganda, and there's a full support for international registration. So anybody from anywhere in the world can actually register .ug domain names. Yeah, if he's looking for a place to do that, GigaLayer does it. I am not sure, maybe Google Host also does, but it's available for registration on GigaLayer that I can confirm.
All right, thank you. Oluwatobi Owolabi, I seem not to understand your question. Okay, all right. I think what are my premium benefits for such premium packages? Referring to what are the benefits of a premium domain name or what? You need to be specific with your question. Okay, thank you all, everybody. We appreciate everyone. Okay, take Abraham, Alex. Okay, I see I have more questions coming for Mrs. Besayo Balogun. Looks like a lot of people enjoyed your policies and regulations. Okay, so the 100,000 naira, is it to stay or it could return to the 1 million? Oh, okay, it's asking whether there's going to be a future change of price. Since you said there was a drop from 1.5 to 100,000. So he's asking whether in future the price will go back to 1.5 million.
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, like I said earlier, you know, the goal is to encourage, you know, more people, more Nigerians, non-Nigerians, you know, to pick up, to register these domain names. You know, so no, for now, the price is 100,000 naira, and it would be interesting to know that, you know, once you're renewing for the second year, it's actually 50% of the registration fee. So when you're renewing the second year, you're not going to pay 100,000 naira, you're going to pay 50% of that price. So yes, and somebody had asked what are the premium benefits or something along that line. So again, like I said, you have to look at your business, you know, because I think before people register, pick up these premium domains, it's probably in line with their business, in line with the brand they're trying to push. So for instance, if I am a fashion designer and there's a fashion.ng, for instance, that's a premium domain, I would want to pick up that because it's in line with my business. It talks about my brand. I understand the value that this domain name would help, in pushing this business, initiative. So I would go for it. So I think, again, it's just understanding your business, like our previous speakers said, understanding your business. How do you want to go about it? How do you want to market? Who is your target audience? Why am I even picking this domain? You need to understand, the reason for actually investing in that domain. It's not a domain you want to pack. It's a domain that you actually want to use, to promote your business. So I think that is one of the benefits. Again, maybe from the registrar angle, maybe they would be able to provide a lot of other benefits, maybe as regards hosting and all other things. But that is actually outside of NERA. We are just in charge of the names. But I think it has to do with your business, your line of business, the brand, what you're trying to push to your target audience. I don't know if that answers the question. Oh, yes. And then somebody says the names have to be delisted. This is something we have done. We currently, if you look at the premium domain, the names have been reduced. We used to have a lot more than that, almost close to 6,000 names or 7,000 names. These names are actually, reviewed. It's been done like 2-3 times, So yes, I also think so. I quite agree with you. And it's something that we've done. So yes, this is something that would go on, is an ongoing basis. The renewal price, like I said, is 50% of the registration cost, which is half of your 100,000 naira. Oluwatobi Owolabi, I hope that's answered the question.
Okay. Any other questions? Question before we call it a day.
Yes.
Question.
Yeah. And if you have any other questions regarding registration of the premium domain names, we have our registrars, some of our registrars on this call. I think they are positioned to, help provide the assistance you need. I see Ahmad. Ahmad is on the call, so you can always reach out, to his company or any other registrar of your choice. Ask. Most of these registrars provide, add-ons. So it's just for you to go to whichever one that you think, suits your business needs. So they are there.
Okay, this is another question for you. Please, what is NERA doing to speed up the .ng domain propagation period?
I think we're working, and obviously it's going to get better. I know when people ask this question, most times it tends to compare it with the propagation period for the .com. But again, you need to understand that the .com has been there, way before, as you tell these, be there way before the CCTL. They have the first mover advantage. So yes, we are going to get there. We're going to get there. It's getting better. It's getting there. We're working on it. We'll get there soon. We'll get there. Abdullah, please. Yeah, Abdullah. Yeah, we'll get there. We understand. We will get there. We'll get there someday. I hope that's
right.
Yeah.
More questions. Mrs. Busara Balogun is ready this afternoon. So
yes, I am ready to take. Yes, we are ready to welcome.
More questions. More questions. More questions. Okay. Okay. Saying on. This is where we draw the curtain for the day. I want to appreciate everyone for taking time to actually participate in this Resellers Entrepreneurship Program. And this is not going to be the first, and this is not going to be the last. We had series of it coming before every bi-monthly. We're going to be sending out invite. And if you see it as an opportunity, or you see it as an opportunity to do an empowerment program in your location, to your target audience, to your customers, schools around you. I see it as an opportunity to create a life after school program. You can reach out to us. We are going to be running this with registrars. You see Ahmad, you see Damlola from Google Host. Next time, we are going to bring in other registrars to participate in all of this. We are not going to be limiting it to a particular registrar. There's some more reason why we said that we're going to be running it bi-monthly. And if you want us to come and run it at your location as an empowerment program, because of the business opportunity inside the industry, you can call us and send us a mail. you see it as live after school. So once again, I say thank you to everyone. Do have a great day and be expectant. We're going to send you 3 things. The paper presented, all the slides, we're going to send it to you. Okay, I see. Okay, I see Busayo actually shared domain policy PDF. Okay, you can download that. We're going to share paper presented so far. We're going to share the recording of this whole session for you to rewatch. There are so many loaded information that you need to go back and refresh your memory. And we're also going to send you a certificate of participation. Once again, thank you very much. Bye for now.